It was J.D. Salinger, author of the cult classic The Catcher in the Rye, who said, and I quote, "What really knocks me out is a book that, when you're all done reading it, you wish that the author that wrote it was a terrific friend of yours and you could call him up on the phone whenever you felt like it." End quote. For all of us at the Shenoy Goembab School of Languages and Literature, I'm sure the words of Salinger resonate deeply as we feel privileged to have a friend and mentor in the author of the book we are about to release. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this joyous and special occasion, the book release of The Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories, a poignant collection of stories translated into English by Miss Vidya Pai, but written originally in Konkani by Sahitya Akademi award-winning author and our very own Dr. Prakash Parienkar. This event is brought to you by the discipline of English and the discipline of Konkani, Shenoy Goembab School of Languages and Literature. And at the outset, may I request Dr. Rama Murkunde, co-convener of today's event, to escort the dignitaries to the dais. Our chief guest for today, Jnanpith award-winning author Shri Damodar Mauzo, guest of honor, Associate Professor Oscar Noronha, the Registrar of Goa University, Professor Sundar Duri, the Dean of SDSLL, Professor Anuradha Wagle, and of course the man of the moment, the author, Dr. Prakash Parienkar. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to request the Dean of Shenoy Goembab School of Languages and Literature, Professor Anuradha Wagle, to officially welcome the gathering.
In the chair, Registrar of Goa University, Professor Sundar Duri. Our chief guest for today, Shri Damodar Bhai Mauzo. A guest of honor, Shri Oscar Noronha. The celebrated author whose book is going to be released today, the translation of whose book is going to be released today, Dr. Prakash Parienkar, Vice Dean of the Shenoy Goembab School of Language and Literature. Distinguished guests present in this audience, deans of schools, vice deans, program directors, and our guests who've come from outside. I know that there are teachers from the different colleges who are here. My faculty of Shenoy Goembab School of Languages and Literature, and dear students present here today, I want to welcome you warmly to this very, very special occasion, the book release of Bitter Fruit Trees and Other Stories, the translated works of our very own Dr. Prakash Parienkar, poet, writer, scholar, and Sahitya Academy winner for Varsity. This translation marks an important event for Konkani language and also an important event for world literature, because we have this very, very important literary work from Goa, from the Konkani language, now becoming a part of world literature through translation, because it is now going to be accessible to non-Konkani speakers, of course, global readers, and of course, fortunately and unfortunately, I would say in some ways, to our very own Goan readers who do not know Konkani so well as to read in Konkani, but who will be delighted to be able to read this in the English language. We have a very interesting program here today. We have a book discussion. we'll have the book discussion, and I welcome all the participants of this book discussion, which is, we have a very, very good panel here. We have Heta Pandit, we have Dr. Akshata Bhatt, Dr. Frederick Noronha, we have Glennis, and of course our very own Dr. Hanuman Choprekar, who will be participating in this discussion. And of course, thank you to the faculty of the Shanae Gobab School of Language and Literature, who is then going to follow up with a book reading of the celebrated work in 2 languages. So thank you all, and thank you and congratulations to the 2 disciplines who have organized this, the Shanae Gobab this from the Shanae Gobab School of Language and Literature, the discipline of English and the discipline of Konkani, who are the natural, obvious and logical organizers of this event. So congratulations to you, and thank you all for having organized this. It's an honor to have with us Shri Bhai Mauzo, as he is fondly known. Not only is he a Goa celebrated writer, but he is also the member of our academic council and a friend of Goa University, of the school, of the students of this university. We thank the registrar for being here, and he is accepted to chair today's session, and this is especially significant because he hails from the very same region where this book is set. So welcome, sir, to this event. Warm welcome to Oscar Noronha, who is a teacher, scholar, writer and a communicator who has contributed widely and significantly to the intellectual and cultural life of Goa through his engagement with language, culture and heritage. We are missing the translator here today, and I wish she was here, but due to unavoidable circumstances she couldn't come. But I must congratulate her for having taken up this ominous task and huge challenge of translating this work, because this is not only the translation of the word in Konkani, but it is a translation of the cultural embeddedness of the language, speech patterns and local imagery, definitely, landscape, ecology, and most importantly, the depth under the simplicity of the words. And I think that is the huge challenge which lies before a translator of a book of this type. And I must congratulate Vidya Pai for having come up with this. This must have been a labor of love, and every translation is a labor of love. And I thank her for having given us this opportunity to actually have this event here today. I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion on the book. There will be book reading. I will not really delve into. I'm very, very fascinated by this. I'm looking forward to the sessions, but I would just like to end here by thanking you all for being here. I want to thank the organizing committee, which was spearheaded by Runa and Rama, who took this whole event forward, all the support of all the other members of the faculty of the Shanae Gobab School of Languages, and let us now celebrate a new voice and a new vision of the world. Thank you very much. Deo Barek Koru.
Thank you, Professor Wagle. As you rightly said, the Bitter Fruit Tree is now accessible to a world audience thanks to its translation into English, A Labor of Love by Miss Vidya Pai. Now, though he needs no introduction, may I request Dr. Rama Murkunde to say a few words about the author, Dr. Prakash Parienkar.
Thank you, Runa. माचेवयल्या सगळ्या मानेस्तांक नमस्कार आणि सभाघरातल्या सगळ्यांक नमस्कार. डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्येकर हांची वळख करून दिवपाची जरी गरज नसली तरी पुणून एक औपचारिकता म्हणून हांगा वळख करपा खातीर हांव तुमच्या मुखार उबें राविल्लें आसा. फाटल्या 26 वर्सां सावन डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्येकर गोंय विद्यापीठांत रुजू आसात. सध्या ते गोय विद्यापीठाच्या कोंकणी अध्ययन शाखेत सहयोगी प्राध्यापक तशेंच शणै गोंयबाब भाशा आनी साहित्य महाशाळेचे उप अधिष्ठाता संशोधन म्हणून काम पळयतात. तशेंच तांचे कडेन अतिथी प्राध्यापक संशोधन कार्यक्रम म्हणजे VRPPचो संचालक म्हूण अतिरिक्त कार्यभार ते सांबाळटात. आपल्या साहित्यांतल्यान ग्रामीण समाज वेवस्थेचेर भाश्य करपी ह्या लेखकाची आजवेर साबार पुस्तकां प्रकाशीत जाल्लीं आसा. आनी एकच साहित्य प्रकार न्ही जाल्यार निबंध, कथा, कविता, कादंबरी अशा साहित्य प्रकारांचो आस्पाव तातूंत जाता. राज्य आनी राष्ट्रीय पावंड्याचेर तांकां वट्ट 19 पुरस्कारांनी सन्मानीत केल्ले आसून 2010 ह्या वर्सा इगडी बिगडी तिगडी था ह्या तांच्या बालनाट्याक साहित्य अकादमी नवी दिल्लीचो बाल साहित्य पुरस्कार फावो जालो. वर्सल ह्या तांच्या कथासंग्रहाक 2023 ह्या वर्साचो साहित्य अकादमीचो जो मुखेल पुरस्कार आसा तो फावो जालो. चंद्रपूर, गळ्यांतलो खुरीस, मोनेळ माया, काजरो तशेंच सैमसोबीत नेहा ह्या तांच्या कथांचेर मराठी तशेंच कोंकणी फिल्म निर्मिती जाल्ली आसा. सैमसोबीत नेहा ह्या कथेचेर आदारीत आर्या द डॉटर ऑफ भारत हें मराठी फिल्म तयार जालां. ह्या फिल्माच्या पटकथेचे ते सहलेखक म्हूण संवाद आनी गीतरचना तांणी केल्ली आसा. काजरो ह्या कथेचेर ज्या कथेचें नांवूच अणकारीत जावन आज बिटर फ्रूट ट्री अँड अदर स्टोरीज म्हणून आसा त्याच मूळ कथेचेर काजरो हें अनकट फिल्म गोंयांत आयोजीत जावपी आंतरराष्ट्रीय भारतीय फिल्म महोत्सवांत सादर जाल्लें आसा आनी ताका 10 आंतरराष्ट्रीय फिल्म महोत्सवांत त्या काजरो ह्या फिल्माची निवडूय जाल्ली आसा. प्रकाश पर्येकर हे अशे लेखक ज्यांची कथा फक्त कोंकणीनूच न्हय जाल्यार भाशेच्यो सिमो हुपून भारतीय तशेंच आंतरराष्ट्रीय भासांनी त्यो पाविल्ल्यो आसात आनी लेखकांनी तशेंच वाचप्यांनी ताची नोंद घेतिल्ली आसा आनी ताका वाखाणिल्लें आसा. तांच्यो कथा वेगवेगळ्या एन्थॉलॉजींनी कथा प्रायज स्टोरीज, द ग्रेट गोवन स्टोरीज एवर टोल्ड, द ब्रेव वर्ल्ड ऑफ गोवन रायटिंग, कोंकणी कथा मराठींत, कथा दर्पण कोंकणी कथा, कथावली गोमंतकीय कथा अशा वेगवेगळ्या कथा संग्रहांनी संपादीत कथा संग्रहांनी तांच्यो कथा आस्पावीत आसात. विद्या पै हांणी अणकारिल्ल्या आनी न्यूगी बुक्स न्यू दिल्ली ह्या म्हत्वाच्या प्रकाशन संस्थेन प्रकाशीत केल्ल्या द बिटर फ्रूट ट्री अँड अदर स्टोरीज हें तांचें पुस्तक आज हांगा मानेस्तांच्या हस्तुकी प्रकाशीत जावपाचें आसा. लेखकाकूय आपल्या मनाचे उमाळे तुमच्या मुखार मांडपाचेच आसतले म्हणटकूच हांव म्हजी 2 उतरां हांगा सोंपयतां. तांची वळख सांगात आवडटी घेता जरी आनी खूब असली तरी आनी हांकां लेखकांक सांगता की ताणें आपलें मनोगत हांगा व्यक्त करचें.
नमस्कार. आजच्या कार्यक्रमाचे मुखेल सोयरे ज्ञानपीठ पुरस्कार विजेते भौमानलेख दामोदर मावजो सर, आमच्या गोंय विद्यापीठाचे कुलसचिव भौमानलेख प्रोफेसर सुंदर दुरी, म्हज्या पुस्तका विशीं जे उलोवपाचें आसा ते ह्या कार्यक्रमाचे मानाचे सोयरे भौमानलेख प्रोफेसर ऑस्कर नोरोन्हा सर आनी आमच्यो सगळ्यांच्यो लाडक्यो डीन भौमानलेख प्रोफेसर अनुराधा वागळे मॅडम. ह्या कार्यक्रमाक तुमी सगळे उपस्थित गोंयभरच्यान जे इंग्लीश विभागान विद्यार्थी शिकतात अंडर ग्रॅज्युएट लेवल ते सगळे विद्यार्थी, तांचे बरोबर आयिल्ल्यो सगळ्यो शिक्षिका, आमच्या गोंय विद्यापीठांतले सगळे मानेस टिचर्स आसा, वायस डीन्स आनी डीन्स हांगसर सगळे उपस्थित आसात. मॅडम हेता पंडीत आनी बाकीचे पॅनलाचे सगळे जे मानेस आसात ते उपस्थित आसात आनी सगळे म्हज्या विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो. आज म्हजे खातीर एक खूब महत्वाचो दीस आनी खोशयेचो दीस की ज्यो कथा जशें रमा मॅडमीन सांगलें तशें की विविध अशा 12-13 भासांनी प्रकाशीत जाल्यात हाच्या पयलीं बिफोर आय गेटींग अ नॅशनल अवॉर्ड फॉर माय वर्सल कलेक्शन ऑफ शॉर्ट स्टोरीज. इतलो आनंद जाता कारण कोंकणी एक ल्हान भास as compared to other Indian languages. आणि आमचे गोंयांत मेकळें जाल्या उपरांत 1961 उपरांतूच कोंकणी भाशेक एक उबारी आयली. रायटर स्टार्ट्स रायटींग शॉर्ट स्टोरीज, ड्रामा, कविता आनी बाकीच्यो गजाली. जरी आमकां 1600 पासून आमकां इतिहास आशिल्लो तरी मॉडर्न लिटरेचर वी स्टार्ट वेरी लेट. आनी विदीन 40 to 50 years of time कोंकणी कथेक येदी व्हडली उबारी आयली आनी ती सर्वदूर पावली थ्रू ट्रान्सलेशन्स. आनी म्हाका दिसता म्हजे असलो एक ल्हान रायटर्स, बारीक एक बरोवपी, ताच्योय कथा वेगवेगळ्या भाशांतल्यान ट्रान्सलेट जाल्यो सांगले 13-14 भाशांनी. एंड एज रेफर्ड बाय म्हणजे डॉक्टर कुंडे मॅडम की बऱ्यांतले बरे 7-8 एन्थॉलॉजीन म्हज्यो कथा प्रकाशीत जाल्यो आनी त्यो नॉट ओन्ली इन इंडिया बट जगभर पावल्यो. ही स्ट्रेंथ म्हजी न्ही एज अ रायटर, ही स्ट्रेंथ कोंकणीची. ही स्ट्रेंथ म्हाका दिसता रिडरांनी आनी ट्रान्सलेटरांनी ही हें केल्ली आसा, ही जादू केल्लो आसा. आमी कोंकणी भाशेक खूब ल्हान मानतात आमी, पूण म्हाका दिसता कोंकणी भास आयज जागतीक पावंड्याचेर पावपाक लागल्या. म्हणूनच दामोदर मावजेची कादंबरी 14 भाशेंनी ट्रान्सलेट जाता. दामोदर मावजेच्यो कथा वा महाबळेश्वर सैलाच्यो कादंबरी कथा आयज दुसऱ्या भाशेंनी मागून घेवन ट्रान्सलेट जाता. दीस इज अ स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ दी कोंकणी लँग्वेज. हांव एक सैमोगी, आय एम एंगेज इन मायंडफूल नेचर ऑब्जर्वर. I spend times in nature. हांव खूब भोंवता आनी फॉर लास्ट 27 years I am organizing ट्रॅकिंग प्रोग्राम. कित्याक लागून सांगता की हांव रानान भोंवता, ताचे रिफ्लेक्शन्स म्हाज्या स्टोरीनी पळोवपाक मेळटा. स्टोरी लायक अभयारण्य ताकाच लागून बरयली हांवें. दी फॉरेस्ट सेंच्युरी म्हणून ती हातून आसा. द स्टोरी लायक रान आक्रोश, स्टोरी लायक वनुमानूस, ह्यो स्टोरी हालींच लास्ट इयर्स पब्लीश जाल्यात. These above mentioned stories underline the importance of flora and fauna in the Mare Valley. It gives a reader a deep experience of ecosystem that exist in Sahel region. Rural जे माझी स्ट्रेंथ अशी म्हाका दिसता की माझ्या कथेची स्ट्रेंथ आसा म्हणजे कॅरेक्टर्स, द रियल हिरोज ऑफ माय शॉर्ट स्टोरीज. द कॅरेक्टर्स लायक गोखळे, फनी दिसतली सगळी नांवां. गोखळे, तिळगो, पार्वती, मधू, आवडू, सोमालगे, सुकडो, चंद्रे, सातू, बोमडो, केवजो, दुलो, फटी, फटलें, बिवा, जायू, सोनी, बोंदरू, विठू, शेवतू, बारकेलो, उत्तम, गणपत, साकरू, बोमो. अनेक व्यक्तिरेखा ज्यो हांवें म्हज्या कथेंतल्यान मांडल्यात. आनी ह्यो व्यक्तिरेखा उब्यो करता आसतना ह्या समाज वेवस्थेचो हांवें आदार घेतिल्लो आसा. All these characters are from Sattari area. Some of them are still alive. Parvati, an age-old woman, represents Harijan community. That Parvati, a character from Varsal story, who have passed away 7 days back. तिचे घरा वचून आयला, तिच्या घरच्यांक सातवण दिवन 7 दिसां पयलींच एक्सपायर जाली. आवडू फ्रॉम द फॉरेस्ट सेंच्युरी. ही बायल रानान रावपी, एकूच घर तांचे, कडवळी म्हणटाली, एकाच रानान रावताली, ताका कडवळकरीन म्हणटाली, तिवूय एक्सपायर जाली. सोनी फ्रॉम द सेक्रेट काव, तिवूय एक्सपायर जाल्ली आसा. दोंगराचो भाव, रियल, ही सगळी रियल कॅरेक्टर्स फ्रॉम माय द ओल्ड मॅन ऑफ द हिल म्हणून शॉर्ट स्टोरीज आसा. हे सगळे जे आसा जी कॅरेक्टर्स आसा दे आर फ्रॉम माय एरिया आनी हांवें पळयल्या तांकां, लागींच्यान पळयल्लें आसा. वयर उल्लेख केल्ल्या समाजाचे तळमळे, कश्टाळू जीवन, तांचेर जाल्ले आघात, अन्याय, अत्याचार, तांचे मनाचेर जाल्ले परिणाम, हे सगळे काळीज पिळून उडोवपी, काळीज हाळून उडोवपी अशे अनुभव. सो आय वॉन्टेड टू गिव देम अ वॉयस टू दीस वॉयसलेस कम्युनिटी. पुंडलीक बरें सांगता, बरें रिपीट करता की आमचे कितल्योश्योच पिळग्यो मनांनी गेले म्हणून. तशें आमच्योय पिळग्यो तितले मनांनी गेलो, तांकां उलोवपाक जमलें ना, वॉयस रेज करपाक जमलो ना. बाटकावर दीस आमचे ते हें आसात, मोकाशा दरावडीचे. सो लेखक म्हूण म्हजें म्हाका दिसता आद्य कर्तव्य अशें मानलां अशें दिसता म्हाका. आनी सो माय रायटिंग्स एक्सप्लोर द लोकल रुरल लायफ, क्लास कॉन्फ्लिक्ट and environmental issues. After screening the Karazro at Mami International Festival, Mumbai, one of the प्रश्न विचारत जाता one of the audience उठला आनी म्हाका सांगपाक लागलो, being a literate state, is there is a caste system or a discrimination is still exists in state of Goa का म्हणून. Because I replied yes. I immediately अशें म्हज्या तोंडांतल्यान I replied yes. I said not only in Goa. अक्रॉस वर्ल्डान हें आसा. घडे कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन आसना बट क्रेड आनी बाकीच्यो गजाली सगळे आसा. हॅव नॉट आसात सगळे, हॅव एंड हॅव नॉट्स. खंय ना खंय डिस्क्रिमिनेशन चालूच आसा. सो इवन आमी सांगलें की अमेरिका खंय आसा न्ही, एडवान्स कंट्री, थंय आसा हें सगळें. म्हणटकच आमी सांगलें की आमचे कडेन एन नंबर ऑफ विशय जे आसात लेखना खातीर योग्य तरेन अभ्यास करून ते आमी कथेंतल्यान अशें मांडले जाल्यार म्हाका दिसता खूब बरें जातलें. हांव बरयतां पूण हांव खूब कमी बरयतां. ताचे खातीर विचारपूय जाता आनी तूं कमी बरयतात म्हणून तांकां दिवपाक म्हाजे कडेन निश्चित अशी जाप ना. फाटल्या वर्सा हांवें 2च कथा बरयल्यो, पण तातूंतली एक हिंदीत ट्रान्सलेट जाली रोखडीच आनी तातूंतली एक इंग्लिशीन ट्रान्सलेट जाली. ऑस्कर नोरोना हांगसर बशिल्लो आसा, ताणें म्हजी काजळ्यो कथा पोर्चुगीजीन हालींच केल्ली आसा, ती सरहदूर पावतली. जशें हांवें सांगलां की कथाकार म्हणून म्हजी एन्थॉलॉजीन ज्यो कथा आयल्या 13-14 एन्थॉलॉजीन, ती म्हाजी खरी जोड आसा अशें म्हाका दिसता. हांवें सगळें श्रेय म्हज्या अणकारप्यांक दितां. तांच्यांनी म्हज्या कथांचो योग्य अणकार करूंक नाशिल्लो जाल्यार कोंकणी कथा सरहदूर पावची नाशिल्ली आनी हेर भाशेंतल्या वाचकांक ती वाचपाक मेळची नाशिल्ली. एकूच याद सांगता. वन ऑफ द माय स्टोरी हॅज पब्लिश्ड इन मलयालम, मातृभूमी. 50,000 circulation असते का. सो आय गॉट 33 कॉल्स फ्रॉम केरला. कोंकणीन घडये जायना हें, पूण तेंचे कडेन जाता. रोखडेच फोन करतात ते. आनी वन ऑफ द एक्चुअली फिल्म मेकर्स ही आस्क मी टू सेंड अ स्टोरी फॉर फिल्मा खातीर. ताका धाडूनय दिली. तेजें फिल्म जालां काय नकळो खबर ना, पूण इतलो रिस्पॉन्स बरो मेळटाना हें जाता. सेकंडली आनी एक सांगता की म्हाजी पयली शॉर्ट स्टोरी जी रवींद्र कात्यायन डॉक्टर ताणी आमचो फॅकल्टी मेंबर तो ताणी ट्रान्सलेट केली इन हिंदी. इट वॉज गॉट पब्लिश इन समकालीन भारतीय साहित्य. इमिडिएटली विदीन 15 days आय गॉट अ कॉल फ्रॉम ओरिसा आनी सांगलें की आमकां ती ओडियान करपाक जाय म्हणून, आनी ती इमिडिएटली ट्रान्सलेट जाली. म्हाका सदांच दिसता की इंग्लीश आनी हिंदी ह्यो 2 भाशा आसा ज्या भाशांनी कथा वयतकच त्यो बेगीन ट्रान्सलेट जाता आनी सर्वदूर बाकीच्या भाशेंनी वता. हें म्हजे बाबतींत तें जाल्लें आसा. ज्यो कथा 12 कथा ज्यो वर्सलान आशिल्ल्यो, इट हॅज बीन ट्रान्सलेटेड इन टू इंग्लीश. आनी एक कथा जी आसा हातूंत बीट ऑफ फ्रूट ट्री, इट इज ट्रान्सलेटेड काजरो कथा. ती इट इज नॉट अपियर्ड इन वर्सल. पूण ह्या संग्रहान आसपी जाल्ल्यो ज्यो कथा आसा त्यो सगळ्यो विद्या पैन अणकारीत केल्ल्यो आसा. म्हजी पयली कथा काजळफळ ही तांच्यांनी 1997 ट्रान्सलेट केल्ली आनी इट वॉज अपियर्ड इन गोवा टुडे त्या वेळाचेर जाल्ली आसा. आनी निमाणे कडेन एक म्हाका सांगपाक जाय, हें पुस्तक प्रकाशीत जाल्यार आयज 4-5 म्हयने जाले, 5 म्हयने जातले का 4 म्हयने. पूण खूब आनंद जाता जे नियोगी बुक्सान प्रकाशीत केल्लें आसा. एक बरोतलो बरो एक पब्लिशर. सो नॉन फिक्शन्स ते प्रकाशीत करता, पण फिक्शनूय करतात. पण हातूंत आमी पळयलां की आउटलुकान अंजना बासू यांनी रिव्ह्यू बरयल्ले आसा. नवीन टायम्सान 3 रिव्ह्यू आयिल्ले आसा. एक फ्रेडरिक नोरोना, ब्रायन डिसोजान आयिल्लो आनी कल्याणी जान बरयल्ले आसा. अशे 3. ओ हेराल्डान आर्किदासान बरयल्ले आसा. एडविस्ता तुमचे एडविस्ता कोस्ता दे गोवा, ब्रायन डिसोजान परत ताजेर रिव्ह्यू बरयला. द स्टेटमेंट्स हांव म्हाका खबर पासून ना स्टेटमेंट म्हणून एक बऱ्यांतले बरो हें आसा. थंय किर्ती मित्ता हाणें बरयल्लो आसा. डेक्कन टॉनिकल हातून आनी हिंदुस्तान टायम्स हातून आयिल्ले आसा प्रियंका सरकारानी. आनी द इंडियन बुक्स क्लब हातूनय श्रीनाथ सेनान बरयल्लो आसा. आनी स्क्रॉल इन म्हणून एक ऑनलायन आसा, तातूंतय गितांजली रॉय तांच्यांनी डिजिटल रे तांच्यांनी म्हाका दिसता हाजो अर्थ 13 रिव्ह्यू आयिल्ले आसा आयज मेरेन ऑल ओवर इंडिया. खूब बरें दिसता कारण इंग्लिशले रिडर हेची दखल घेतात आनी अशे तरेचे रिव्यू बरयतात आनी घडये येतले ह्याच्या संदर्भात. म्हणटकच खूब खूब धन्यवाद दिता तुमकां सगळ्यांक. तुमी मोठ्या संख्येन हांगा आयला. म्हणजे वर्सल पुस्तक गोवा विद्यापिठानच प्रकाशीत जाल्लें. त्या वेळा वयले आमचे मोमानदीक आमचे चान्सलर PS श्रीधरन पिल्ले हांच्या हस्ते ते जाल्ले आनी त्या वेळाचेर ज्ञानपीठ पुरस्कार विजेते दामोदर मावजो त्या वेळाचेर आशिल्ले आनी आयजूय ते हांगसर आसात. आनी गोंय विद्यापिठाचे कुलगुरू भोवनादीक प्रोफेसर हरिलाल मेनन सर येवपाचे आशिल्ले ह्या कार्यक्रमाक, पूण कांय कार्यक्रमांक ते येवपाक पावले ना, पूण त्या वेळार थंय ते आशिल्ले. म्हाका दिसता तांचो आशिर्वाद ह्या पुस्तक सुवाळ्याक निश्चितूच आसतलो. आनी जरी हरिलाल मेनन सराची जरी उपस्थिती जरी आशिल्ली जाल्यार सराक आमी कालूच सांगला की सर तांकां येवपाक मेळना. प्रोफेसर धुरी हांगसर ह्या पुस्तक सुवाळ्याक ते आयल्यात. म्हणटकीर खूब खूब धन्यवाद दिवन हांव थांबतां. आनी थांबचे पयलीं हांव फक्त एक देव बरें करूं म्हणटा एक कांय जाणांक. ते म्हटल्यार ज्या आमच्या शणै गोवा स्कूल ऑफ लँग्वेज लिटरेचरान हो कार्यक्रम आयोजीत केला आनी सगळो फुडाकार आनी मान्यताय आमकां सुरवाती पासून मॅडमीन दिली, आमचे डीन प्रोफेसर अनुराधा मॅडम. तुमकां खूब खूब धन्यवाद म्हणटा हांव. आनी दुसरी गजाल, ह्या कार्यक्रम बरो जावचो ह्या नदरेंतल्यान रुना मेनेजीस आनी रमा मुरकुंडे मॅडमीन इतलो सुंदर रितीन हो प्रोग्राम आंखला तांच्या कल्पनेन. आनी तांची आपली कमिटी आसा 5-6 जाणां तांच्यांनी. आनी इंग्लीश अध्ययन शाखेचे संचालक पूर्वा नायक मॅडम हांगसर आसा आनी कृपाली नायक आयज येवंक पावली ना, कारण हेजें आसा, सिकनेस आसा, म्हणटकच ती घरा कडेन रावल्या. पूण ह्या दोगांनी आमकां ह्यो कार्यक्रम करपाक खूब आदार केल्लो आसा. म्हणून हांव खूब खूब धन्यवाद दिता सगळ्यांक. आनी तुमी मोठ्या संख्येन हांगसर आयले ह्या कार्यक्रमाक लागून. म्हणून हांव तुमकां धन्यवाद दिता आनी देव बरें करूं म्हणटा. आनी तुमचो अशेच तरेचो मोग, प्रेम, आशिर्वाद ह्या ल्हानशा लेखकाचेर आसचो, जेणे करून म्हज्या हातींतल्यान आनी चड बरें बरोवन जावचें आनी तें परत इंग्लिशींतल्यान आनी बाकी भाशांनी ट्रान्सलेट जावन तें परत तुमच्या हातांतल्यान पावचें, हातान पावचें अशें हांव म्हाकाच शुभेच्छा दिता आनी धन्यवाद दिता. देव बरें करूं.
Thank you, Dr. Parienkar, for being an inspiration to all of us and the voice of the voiceless and suppressed communities. Let's give Dr. Prakash Parienkar another round of applause. And of course, now the moment that we've been waiting for. It's my honor to invite our distinguished guests to officially release The Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories. May I request our distinguished guests to kindly rise. Our chief guest, so the book will be released at the hands of our chief guest, Sri Damodar Mauzo, guest of honor, Sri Oscar Noronha, along with the registrar of Goa University, Professor Sundar Dhuri, and the dean of SDSLL, Professor Anuradha Bagle. Of course, also at the hands of the author, Dr. Prakash Parienkar. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, everyone. With the combined efforts of an extraordinary author and a dedicated translator, a new literary journey begins today. We've not just released a book, but we've launched a new experience and a new life for these powerful stories. Thank you, everyone, and I, congratulate Sir once again on the release of his book. And now it gives me immense pleasure to introduce to you our guest of honor for today, Oscar de Noronha. Mr. Noronha is an associate professor of English at Government College, Khandola. He has edited, translated and authored several books in English and Portuguese. His published books include Old Goa, The Complete Guide, Of Divine Bondage, The Epic Life of Saint Joseph Vaz, and 2 books in Portuguese. One of them is Castilho de Noronha, which translates into For God and Country, and another Portuguese translates into Goa as I Saw It, which is a memoir covering Goa's political, social and cultural history from 1930. He was felicitated by the Governor of Goa for the script of the documentary The World of Mario Miranda, Seriously Funny, during the release of the documentary in October 2024. He is an avid blogger and is on the editorial board of Revista Kajal Goa, an online bilingual magazine in which he recently published a Portuguese translation of Dr. Pariekar's short story, The Bitter Fruit Tree. Please help me welcome with a warm round of applause Associate Professor Frederick Noronha. He will be giving us glimpses of the world of the author, the book, and as he calls it, Pariekar's 70 days, by way of a presentation.
A very good morning to all of you. Honorable Registrar, Professor Duri, distinguished Chief Guest, Mr. Ozo, respected Dean, Professor Magle, esteemed Dr. Prakash Parienkar, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to begin by congratulating the Shenoy Goimbab School of Languages and Literature for this event showcasing the work of Dr. Prakash Parienkar, one of Goa University's best known academics and literateurs. And I wish to thank the disciplines of English and Konkani for inviting me to speak on his latest offering. I feel honored to present The Bitter Fruit Tree and other stories to this August gathering. Dr. Pariekar's storytelling career began in his early 20s. He's a born raconteur. Varsal, his first short story collection, which carries an insightful foreword by Mr. Damodar Mauzo, won the Sahitya Academy Award for Konkani in 2023. 12 of the 13 stories, as the author had just mentioned, 12 of the 13 stories in The Bitter Fruit Tree are drawn from Varsal. All of them superbly translated into English by veteran translator Vidya Pai and published by Niyogi Books. The vibrant green book cover is suggestive of lush scenes of rustic life and folklore. However, the narratives are not exactly of the traditional pastoral genre that idealizes rural life. In fact, The Bitter Fruit Tree is an extended metaphor for the hardship and injustice faced by the agricultural community in the author's native Sattari, the northeasternmost taluka of Goa, nestled in the Western Ghats. The titular and opening story establishes the mood, style, and atmosphere of the collection. No name other than the colloquial bitter fruit tree seems bitter enough to portray the story of the Mahars, Tilgo, a Duluk player, and his wife Gokle, who dies. Tilgo is asked to bury his wife outside the village and never to return because he is niputrik, childless. Having no one to share his feelings with, he tenderly addresses his wife as he carries her down the hill to the burial spot under the bitter fruit tree across the river. His parting words, which double as a social critique, provide a thematic keystone to the book. This is Kasarod the film. And this is the passage which I think defines the book, provides the thematic keystone. In exploring the lives of ordinary people, Parienkar delineates social evils in a straightforward yet gentle manner. He exposes the hard labor, poverty, illiteracy, ritualism, and superstition prevalent in that ecologically sensitive and socially somewhat insensitive system. While Goa has a large liberal middle-class presence, the hills of Sattari seem to be ruled by petty chieftains who grind the faces of the poor and voiceless. Some stories are therefore heartbreaking, but imbued with the author's empathy, they become highly readable. Pick any story and you'll connect with the characters as much as the characters themselves connect with the nature, with the natural surroundings. To Sony, the Dangar prototype in The Sacred Cow, her cattle mean the world to her. The anguish she feels on the death of her dairy cow is almost the match of what Fatih and Fatleh feel in The Fruits of Labour. Here, a gush of rain and a river in spate brings a sense of urgency and pain to the farmer couple. They are gritty though, and so is Dogracho Baba in the story The Old Man of the Hills. He toils away to direct water from the mother into his field and is soon joined by his son Biva, who has by now lost his fascination for the city lights. Parienkar portrays family relationships, social interactions, leisure and innocence, the likes of which we don't know in city life. Somargi, a mother of 6 girls, suckles a baby that her husband has found lying abandoned in the woods. That's silent affection. Affection is also what Chandre feels towards the monkey slayer, who the people have tied to a mango tree trunk for ogling at her. That night, as her husband lies wrapped in a blanket, Chandre, wondering whether the Vanarmaro is shivering, seeks him out on Uvodem. Do read The Crescent Moon to see the final outcome. There's a touch of mountain romance in that story, but it isn't a Parienkar trope. Parienkar's characters are more often seen at home, in their fields and farms, temples and public squares. The women manage the household and are a force to reckon with in the community. For example, the widowed Gokul in water. She ignores the government's promises of a non-stop water supply and gets down to reviving the village well. As regards the crucifix on a chain, the juxtaposition in the title is not lost on the reader. It is the only story in which the protagonist is a Christian. Although not specifically mentioned, the story evokes the 1920s Shuddhi movement and the difference between colonial Goa's old and new conquests. In the story's sacrifice and desolation, 2 popular village festivals turn into fiascos. The stories touch upon caste and gender issues, reflecting power equations at home and in society. In 2 other stories, social and environmental concerns come to the fore. In The Trap, sons of the soil resent the arrival of outsiders from across the Ghats, while in A Forest Sanctuary, locals feel like outsiders in their own land after large forest tracts have been designated as protected areas. Audu disappears into the woods in protest against state intervention. Finally, while The Bitter Fruit Tree and A Forest Sanctuary are remarkable bookends, there is another powerful story strategically placed in the middle of the collection, The Beat of the Drum. Madhu, the Mahar boy, challenges his supposedly inherent duty to be the temple and village drummer. Empowered by education, he manages to break free from caste oppression. In this sense, Madhu is a response to the predicament faced by the likes of Tilgo. Parienkar recounts his Satari days in simple and unaffected prose, as does R.K. Narayan in Malgudi days. A detached authorial voice allows traditions, perceptions, and transformations to unfold naturally. The writer's first-hand knowledge of the flora, fauna, and farming practices in his taluka gives the story a lovely, earthy feel. Parienkar's little narratives provide visibility to a lesser-known region of Goa, and he clearly eschews the distorted meta-narrative about the state produced by the tourism-centric lens. In his introduction to Varsal, Parienkar states, and I won't read everything because of time, हांगासरली समाजीक विशमता आनी विसंगती कोंकणी साहित्यांत अभिव्यक्त जावंक जाय अशें म्हाका सदांच दिसत आयलां आनी तेवूय म्हजे सत्तरींतलें बोली भाशेसय थळाव्या विशयांत लेगीत विश्वीक मूल्यां लिंबून राविल्लीं आसतात. There is no doubt that Parienkar's local themes explore various aspects of the human condition. In addition to that, the wealth of vocabulary drawn from local imagery is a Parienkar Pai contribution to English. And much as I thought that remote Sattari would be devoid of Lusitanian influence, I found the book, especially the Konkani original, dotted with Portuguese words. Here, I think Parienkar has a thematic counterpart in Miguel Torga, who hails from Portugal's northeastern corner, Trás-os-Montes. Except that, unlike Parienkar, the author of Contos da Montanha, Tales from the Mountain, is far from being a politically neutral observer. All things considered, writer Parienkar takes the bitter with the sweet, and his stories leave no bitter aftertaste. Combining his understanding of the land and its people with his own creative vision, he has captured the spirit of Sattari. Well, given his long association with Tiswari, we might soon expect him to delight us with stories set in this Toluca as well. And taking a cue from his work titled Made, Karlsantlian Kagdar, we could say that the bitter fruit tree too has come from the heart to the page and is sure to go from Sattari to the big white bird. Thank you all for listening and happy reading.
Thank you, Professor Noronha, for that visual, emotional and intellectual treat and the journey of Prakash Pariekar's world and his experiences. We are grateful at this point to the Registrar of Goa University, Professor Sundar Duri, for sparing your valuable time and gracing this occasion in the absence of the Vice Chancellor. May I request you, sir, to share your thoughts on this occasion.
आयच्या ह्या कार्यक्रमाचे अध्यक्ष दामोदर भाई मावजो, ज्ञानपीठ अवॉर्डी, गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर आणि ज्यांनी आयज प्रेजेंटेशन केल्ले ते असोसिएट प्रोफेसर ऑस्कर नोरोना, स्कूल ऑफ लिटरेचर अँड लँग्वेजीस डीन प्रोफेसर अनुराधा वागळे, आयज तुमच्या मुखार ज्यांच्यो 13 काणयो एकाच बुकान येता ते लेखक डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्येकर, कॅम्पसा वयल्या वेगवेगळ्या स्कुलांचे डीन्स, लँग्वेज स्कुलाचे वायस डीन्स, प्रोग्राम डायरेक्टर्स, साहित्य म्हणटकच वेगवेगळ्या फिल्डांचे लोक एकठांय येतात, फक्त हे लँग्वेज पुरते नासतात. ताका लागून हांगा खुबशे तुमकां दिसतले वेगवेगळे डिसिप्लिन्स स्कुलांचे आमचे स्टुडंट्स, फॅकल्टी आणि प्रकाश सरांचे हितचिंतक, वेल विशर्स, वेगवेगळ्या महाविद्यालयांसून आयिल्ले टिचर्स, इंग्लीश आनी कोंकणी डिसिप्लिन्साचे आनी विद्यार्थी आमचो उलो आयकून हांगासर हाजीर आशिल्ले प्रेसाचे भाव आणि लेडीज अँड जेंटलमॅन, तुमकां सगळ्यांक नमस्कार. आयज म्हाका हांगा उलोवपाक संद मेळ्ळा कारण आमचो वायस चान्सलर सर काही कारणाक लागून हो प्रोग्राम अटेंड करूंक पावूना. ताका लागून हांव ही संद मेळ्ळा म्हणटा आनी त्या संदेचो फायदो घेता. सगळ्यान पयलीं आयज बरें दिसता की हॉल फूल भरलेलो आसा आनी ह्या भरलेल्या हॉलान म्हाका एक आनंदाची गोश्ट तुमच्या मुखार शेअर करपाची आसा ती म्हणल्यार हालींच गोंय विद्यापिठाक एक मानाचो तुरो मेळिल्लो आसा. तुमकां सगळ्यांक खबर आसतली गोंय विद्यापिठाक नॅक एक्रिडिटेशनान A+ रेट मेळिल्ली आसा आनी हें सगळें शक्य जालें कारण मी सगळ्यांनी ताका सहकार्य केल्लें आनी ताका लागून हें शक्य जाल्लें आसा. आयज आमी ह्या कार्यावळीक जे बूक रिलीज आसात ताका मेळिल्ले आसात. एकदां म्हाका दिसता प्रकाश सर एकच आसात काय खूब आसा. आतां तुमी 70 पयशात जाल्यार प्रकाश सर आसतलो, काणकोणा गेल्यार प्रकाश सर आसतलो, पेडण्या गेल्यार प्रकाश सर आसतलो, रानान खंयसर गेल्यार प्रकाश सर तुमकां आसतलो, डिपार्टमेंटल स्कुलान प्रकाश सर आसात. प्रकाश सर फिल्मां करतात, प्रकाश सर बरयता, म्हादयचे न्हंयच्या देगेरय भोंवता. हें सगळें केन्ना करता? दिसाक 24 वरां आसतात पण सराक लागून म्हाका दिसता ही 48 वरां. केन्ना न्हिदता आनी केन्ना उठता सराकच खबर. आनी दिसान जेन्ना युनिवर्सिटीन आसता तेन्ना खुबश्यो गोश्टी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आनी जबाबदारीन करच्यो आसता आनी तेंय करतात. अशें करीत आसतना 1999 ते आयज पर्यंत तांणी सरान कितलीशींच बुक्स बरयल्ले आसात. स्टोरीज, पोयम्स किंवा बाकीच्यो काणयो म्हणत खुबश्यो गोश्टी सरान बरयल्ले आसात. म्हाका दिसता आयज हांगा इंग्लीश, कोंकणी डिसिप्लिन्साचे भुरगे आसात. ह्या भुरग्यांनी सरां कडसून एक देख घेवपाक जाय. टायम कितलो डिवोट करता ताजेर आसा आनी ताका लागूनच म्हाका दिसता हे सगळें सराक शक्य जालें. 70क लागून सांगपाचें म्हणल्यार खुबशे तुमी कोण रमान म्हाका मॅडमूय म्हणलें आसलें, हांवूय 70चो म्हणून. आनी 70क लागून सर एक रोल मॉडलूय आसात. खुबशे युवक आयज लेखनान किंवा साहित्य बरोवपाक लागल्यात, ती एक बरी गजाल. आनी आयज विद्यापिठान जेन्ना सर आमकां साहित्य अकादमी अवॉर्ड आसा आनी तांचे जर भुरग्यांक मार्गदर्शन मेळटा, आमच्या भुरग्यांक मार्गदर्शन मेळटा खंयचीय लँग्वेज आसूं, ती सुद्दां विद्यापिठाक एक बरी गजाल आसा. आनी ताका लागून हाजो फायदो म्हाका दिसता हांगा बशिल्लीं जीं भुरगीं आसात तांच्यांनी करून घेवपाक जाय. आनी त्या भायर आमचे युनिवर्सिटीन हालींच 2020 ते आतां पर्यंत खुबशे नवे टिचर्स जॉयन जाल्ले आनी त्या टिचर्साकय त्या सरांचो फायदो जाता जेन्ना साहित्य किंवा लिखाण किंवा स्टोरीज बरयता आसतना. जेन्ना आमी 70 वाठार किंवा बाकीचे हेर वाठार म्हणटा, जशें सरान आतां प्रेजेंटेशन केलें, थोडेशे पयले आसता दोंगर दिसताले, मागीर सकयल शेतां दिसतालीं. म्हाका दिसता अशीं बुकां किंवा स्टोरीज किंवा अशे बुक्स बरयल्या नंतर हे दोंगरूय उरतले आनी शेतां उरतलीं. नाजाल्यार अशें जातलें फक्त दोंगर उरतले आनी ती शेतां नाच जातलीं. ताका लागून लिखाणांसून बरोवप आनी जे वाचक आसा तांच्या फुडें पावप, म्हाका दिसता असले खुबश्यो गोश्टी जावपाक जाय. जेन्ना सरान जी पुरण म्हणून एक बूक सरान बरयला आनी तुमकां खबर आसतली पुरण एक 70 एक शेती उपक्रम आशिल्लो जो 20-25 वर्सां पयलीं बंद जालो. आनी ह्या बुकाक लागून एक असो आउटकम आयलो की आतां ती शेती पुरण शेती आहा ती पुनर्जीवीत जावपाक लागल्या. ताका लागून हे बुक्स किंवा आमी कितें बरयता पळय ताजो आउटकमूय आसता आनी एकदां पॉलिसी करपाकूय गव्हर्मेंटाक बरें जातात. आनी त्या बुकाच्या ताजेरच बुकाच्या वयल्यान विद्यापिठान च्या सहकार्यान सरान एक बुक म्हाका दिसता प्रोजेक्ट बरयलो पुरण शेतीचेर आनी तो अवॉर्डूय जालो. ताका लागून म्हाका दिसता ही एक आमकां एक बरी गजाल. अशे बुक्स जर आयले जे गोंयाच्या हिताचे आसात, जे लोकांच्या समाजाच्या हिताचे आसात, जे गांवांत रावपी लोकांच्या हिताचे आसात जे गांवगिरे वाठार आसात ताका लागून ते जगपाक लागून ते बुक्स बरयल्ले आसात. अशे जर बूक बरयत जाल्यार म्हाका दिसता आमी ओवरऑल जो गोवाचो आमी डेव्हलपमेंट म्हणटा तो आमी पळोवंक शकतले. आनी हांगा जे भुरगे आसात वेगवेगळ्या क्षेत्रांतले तेंच्यांनी म्हाका दिसता एक तांचे जे करियर आसा करियरांतलो एक आठवडो भर तरी गांवांत गांवगिऱ्या वाठारांत तेणे रावून आयले जाल्यार तुमकां खरेंच गांवाचें जीवन कशें आसता, गांवाची रावपाची शैली कशी आसता तें तुमकां कळटलें. आयज खूब कडेन 70चे जे कॉर्नर्स विलेजीस आसा खूब कडेन तुमकां 70चे किंवा सबंद गोंयांत म्हणात खुबशे कॉर्नर विलेजीस आसा पळय ते लोक कशें जीवन जगतात ताजेर जर लिखाण जायत जाल्यार आयज सरांच्या चडशा पुस्तकांनी 70चे जे जीवन आसा शैली आसा कशे लोक रावतात कशें डिस्क्रिमिनेशन जाता कितें जाता तें सगळें सरान बरयल्लें आसात. म्हाका दिसता आनी भरपूर स्कोप आसा बरोवपाक आनी ते सगळें एकटो सरच बरोवंक शकना. बाकीनी भुरगीं म्हणत बाकीचे टिचर्स आसा तांच्यांनी फुडें सरून बरयलें जाल्यार म्हाका दिसता पुराय गोंयाच्या आमचे जे गांवगिरे वाठार आसात तांचें लिखाण तयार जावन आणखी कितलींशींच बुकां तयार जातलीं. अशें करीत जाल्यार म्हाका दिसता आमकां जेन्ना आमी सरकारा कडेन जेन्ना थोडे विशय मांडटात तेन्ना आमकां बरें जाता. तें पुरण म्हणात किंवा सराचो काजरो किंवा बाकीचीं बुकां खुबशे लेखक वाचतात आनी ताचे वाचून ताचे एक प्रसार जाता भुरग्यांचेर एक परिणाम जाता तो खरोच एक एनकरेजींग आसता. ताका लागून म्हाका दिसता लेखक जे आसा तांच्यांनी करपाक जाय. म्हाका लागून तर एक गोश्ट एक युनीक आसा. एकदां कितें आसता एक बूक जेन्ना प्रकाशीत जाता किंवा ताचें उक्तावण जाता तेन्ना कितें जाता वेगवेगळे लेखक जे आसात तांच्यो स्टोऱ्यो किंवा काणयो किंवा आनी कितें आसा पळय ते एकठांय करून एका बुकान छापतात. आनी जेन्ना बुकाचें टायटल आसता ते टायटले भितून ज्यो स्टोरीज आसा ताका कनेक्टेड आसा. हो एक असो बूक आसा ज्यो सरान ज्यो बुक्स बरयल्यात फाटल्या 20 वर्सां 25 वर्सां वेगवेगळ्या वेळार आनी तातूंचे सगळ्यांचे ते इतले बुक्स बरयले तातूंचे 13 बुक्स ह्या एक कलेक्शनान आसा आनी ते 13 बुक्साचे वेगवेगळ्या वेळार बरोवन सगळ्यांचे कनेक्टिविटी करून एक बिटर फ्रूट ट्री म्हूण टायटल दिल्लें आसा. एक बरी गजाल अशें सहजा जायना आनी ताका लागून म्हाका दिसता तांचो जो अनुभव सरांचो जो अनुभव सरांचें जें लिखाण जे गांवांतल्या लोकांक लागून बरयतात जे गांवगिऱ्या वाठारांत जे लोक कशे भोगतात ताजेर बरयतात वेगवेगळे विशय घेवन एकच विशय आसना ताजो वेगवेगळे विशय घेवन म्हणटात आनी तेंचे जे बुक्स जे लिखाण केल्या ताजेरच आतां फिल्मां येवपाक लागल्यात. सरान जें म्हणलें की 13 लँग्वेजींनी किंवा 14 लँग्वेजींनी ट्रान्सलेशन म्हटल्यार हाजे वेगवेगळे स्टेट्सांचे वेगवेगळे लँग्वेज तांच्यांनी सगळें ट्रान्सलेशन करपाक मागलात. अशें जावं बी गोंयांक लागून किंवा एक आमच्या विद्यापिठाक किंवा 70 तालुक्याक लागून एक बरी गजाल आनी अशें म्हाका दिसता लेखक फुडें सरपाक जाय. आनी आमकां एक गोंय विद्यापीठ कडल्यान सगळ्यांकच हांगा आमचे शिक्षक म्हणात किंवा भुरगीं म्हणात स्टुडंट्स म्हणात तांकां एक प्रोत्साहन सरा कडल्यान मेळटा. आनी ज्या पद्दतीन ट्रान्सलेशन जावपाक लागलां आयज ट्रान्सलेशन इज व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट इरिस्पेक्टीव ऑफ अ लँग्वेज आनी हाचें युनिवर्सिटी लेवलार एक ट्रान्सलेशन जावप ही बरी गजाल आनी ताका लागून आमी युनिवर्सिटीच्या विद्यापीठाच्या वतीन आमी एक ट्रान्सलेशन सेल करपाचो आमचो विचार आसा. आमी व्हेरी 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 नियर फ्युचर वी वील डू दॅट wherever translation requires important because that's the important part for the students and that will take forward. हांगा बशिल्ले खुबशे आमचे जे गेस्ट आसात तांकां सांगून दिसता की गोंय विद्यापीठाची रेपोजिटरी आसा गोंय विद्यापीठाची रेपोजिटरी आसा आमची लायब्ररी आसा लायब्ररीची मेंबरशीप तुमी कोणी ना तांच्यांनी करपाकय जाता मेंबरशीप आमी ऑफर करतात. We have a repository which has a lot of books in different languages as well as in specialization. There are so many journals, there are so many technical reports and a lot of authorized material available at our repository. So those who wants to pursue their career as a writers or those who want to come in the field of a literature, I think they need to rely more on readings rather than the social media write-ups or what is there on the internet. It is more important that we rely more on the readings and therefore If you step in library and you spend your time, is more important than spending on the time on the mobiles reading, because it will spoil your the eyes also, it will spoil your time also. Certain content you can't validate, all those things are there, and therefore it is my humble request is that we have a library, we have a repository, students should make use of it, and that is how we can pass whatever knowledge or information we have to the others. Some information which comes on a lot of things, it is sometimes disturbs, but when you read books etc., you really come to know the exact position, and therefore it is important that students read. परत एकदा शेणै गोंयबाग स्कूल ऑफ लँग्वेजीस एंड लिटरेचर हांच्यानी म्हाका संद दिली, जे सराचे बुकाचे प्रकाशन आसले ताका लागून जे ऑर्गनायजर्स आसात, मिस पूर्वा नायक, देन कृपाली नायक, रोना मिनेंदीस, डॉक्टर रामा मुरकुंडे आणि ह्या सगळे कलीग, सगळ्यांचे हांव देव बरें करूं म्हणटा आनी तुमकां सगळ्यांक बेस्ट विशीस. थँक्यू.
Thank you, Professor Dhuri, for that very engaging address and for reminding us that more of us need to write and translate. I now request Dr. Rama Murkunde to introduce our chief guest for today's event, the illustrious Shri Damodar Mauzo.
नमस्कार. परतून एकदा हांव वळख करपा खातीर हांगा तुमच्या मुखार आयिल्लें आसा. परतूनय तेंच वाक्य हांव म्हणटा, श्री दामोदर मावजो हांची वळख हांव कितें म्हणून करतलें, काजुले आनी सुर्याची वळख केल्ल्या वरी आसा, तरी पूण एक औपचारिकता म्हणून तुमच्या मुखार हांव 4 उतरां म्हणटा. श्री दामोदर मावजो, जांकां मोगान आनी मानान आमी सगळी जाणां भाई म्हणटात, ते एक प्रतिभावंत लेखक आनी नामनेचे कथाकार. आज मेरेन तांची स्वरचित ललीत 20 पुस्तकां उजवाडाक आयिल्लीं आसा. मुखेलतायेन कथा, कादंबरी, बाल साहित्य, किशोरवयीन साहित्य, जे खूब उण्या प्रमाणात कोंकणीत आसा, तांणी बरयल्लें आसा. तांच्या कथासंग्रहाची व्हड वळेरी आसा, पूण गाथन, जागरणां, पंचखादय अशा मेजक्याच कथासंग्रहाची नांवां हांव घेतां. तांचे कथासंग्रह भारतीय कितलेशेच 15 वयर भासांनी अणकारीत जाल्ले आसा आनी विदेशी भासांनी ते अणकारीत जाल्ले आसा. कोंकणींतल्यान पुराय कथासंग्रह जांचे अणकारीत जाल्या, अख्ख्याच्या अख्खे कथासंग्रह ज्यांचे अणकारीत जाल्ले आसा हेर भाशांनी, अशे सगळ्यात टॉप नंबर जांचो येता तातूंत भितर आसात भाई मावजो. आनी तांचो तेरेजास मॅन हो कथासंग्रह फ्रँको कॉर्नर इंटरनॅशनल अवॉर्डा खातीरय नामांकीत जाल्लो. लेखना बरोबर ते स्वता एक अणकारपी, आनी भाईचें एक वाक्य आसा की एका बऱ्या लेखकान एक बरो अणकारपी म्हणून एक तरी पुस्तक आपल्या भाशेंत हाडपाची गरज आसा. आनी हें फक्त उलोवन न्ही जाल्यार कृतीन तांणी दाखयल्लें आसा. वोल्गा ह्या तेलुगू लेखिकेचें विमुक्ता ही सांखळ कथा 5 कथांचे संग्रह तांणी कोंकणीत अणकारला. तशेंच कोंकणी स्वताची ललीत सोडून हेर वैचारीक लेखनय तांणी केल्लें आसा. इंक ऑफ डिसेंट हें ताचें उदाहरण. तशेंच कोंकणी भास आनी साहित्याचो इतिहास मांडपी पुस्तक म्हणजे फिनिक्साचें पुनरुत्थान. अलिशा, चितू आनी ओ मारिया सारख्या गाजिल्ल्या कोंकणी फिल्मां खातीर तांणी संवाद लेखन केल्लो आसा आनी त्या तिनूय फिल्मां खातीर तांकां उत्कृश्ट संवाद लेखनाचे पुरस्कारूय फावो जाल्ले आसात. भाई मावजो हांकां मेळिल्ल्या सन्मान आनी पुरस्कारांची वळेरी बरीच लांब आसा. हांव पुराय मांडूंक शकना हांगा, तरी पूण 1-2 संस्थांची नांवां घेता. गोवा कोंकणी अकादमी, कला अकादमी, कथा ह्या सारक्या संस्थांनी तशेंच गोंय राज्याचे साबार पुरस्कार वेगळ्या वेगळ्या वर्सां तांकां फावो जाल्ले आसा. मुखेलतायेन ज्या पुस्तका खातीर आमी खूब जाणां वळखतात एक कार्मेलीन ह्या कादंबरी खातीर तांकां साहित्य अकादमीचो 1983 वर्साचो पुरस्कार फावो जालो आनी ही कादंबरी परत साहित्य अकादमीनच ताचे अणकार 15 वयर भासांनी ताचे अणकार जाल्ले आसात. आनी ह्या कादंबऱ्याचेर PhD लेवलाचेर खुबश्या संशोधकांनी अभ्यासय मांडिल्लो आसा. जाल्यार तांच्या साहित्यीक पुराय वावरा खातीर कोंकणी खातीर ज्ञानपीठ भाई 2022 ह्या वर्सा जोडिल्लो आसा. एक व्यक्ती म्हळ्यार ताणें बरयल्ली फक्त साहित्य संपदाच वा ताणें जोडिल्ले पुरस्कारूच आसना. केन्ना कोणाक गरजेक पावपी, एका उल्याक पावपी, सामान्या सावन खाशा मेरेन जांकां ते आपले भाई म्हणून दिसतात, अशी भाईची मनशाची जोडूय तितलीच व्हड आसा. तुमच्या खातीर भाई मावजो.
Rama begins opposing me. And it was very embarrassing listening to your own introduction. Honorable Registrar of this University, Professor Dhuri, my writer friend who is editor and professor also. But more importantly is my friend Frederick Noronha, my colleague in the academic council, Professor Anuradha Pagane, and my fellow writer here, Prakash Parienkar, and friends in the audience. आज हांगा खाशेलो दीस. खरें म्हळ्यार प्रकाशाचें पुस्तक आज पयली फावटी एक पुस्तक म्हणून इंग्लिशीन गेलां. एक कथा खूब पयलीं प्रकाशीत जाल्यात, पूण एक पुस्तक म्हणून जेन्ना दुसरी भाशेन वता तेन्ना लेखकाचो एक नवो जल्म आसता, पुस्तकाचो एक कथांचो एक नवो जल्म आसता. आय वूड लायक टू कॉंग्रॅच्युलेट माय writer friend Prakash on this occasion, and to his my congratulations are also due to Vidya Pai and his stories themselves for entering a larger sphere of readership. When you are translated, you face a wider readership across the languages, across the country. Well, translations are very important, as just now my friend Professor Dhuri said. Many people, now for giving my example, my own example, whatever name and fame I have is because of translations. Otherwise, I would have been known only to the smallest circle of Konkani readership. But it gives a wider scope to your writings. And but it doesn't mean that translations is everything. People have a notion that once you are translated, you become famous. It's not so. Given an example, I would say a mediocre story, when however well translated it is, it cannot become a meritorious because it is translated. And if a bad translation, when bad translation of a good story happens, it ruins the story. That is precisely why we have to be very careful when we get ourselves translated, I mean our writings into other languages. And speaking about this book, I must say Vidya Pai has done a very good, given a very good result, because it's very difficult to translate a person living in faraway place like Kolkata. She writes she is a Konkani speaking person, but she has toiled very hard to translate Konkani works into English. So congratulations are due to her also, whose translations is going to bring glory to Konkani and also to Goa. Friends, to the best of my knowledge, my friend Prakash has faced a lot of difficulties when he was getting his education. In the pursuit of his education, I know, rather than I have heard about it, I know how hard time he had during those times. But because of that hard time he had, today he is a successful man. And I remember here our ex-president Abdul APJ Kalam once said, and I quote, "Every successful person has a painful story, and every painful story has a successful ending." This is precisely, probably he had quoted it, I unquote, but precisely what he has said is Prakash Parienkar sarke lagu jata, because I know the extent of trouble or the difficulties he has gone through to acquire his education. But it's not the education only. What you go for, you look for is the education when you go to university or college. But then it is the knowledge that you acquire is more important than the education. So there is a difference, and I think it is very important that you know how different it is, how education is different from knowledge. Of course, they They go hand in hand. And when you acquire both education and knowledge, nothing can stop you. Professor Parienkar has seen the sufferings of the people of his region. We all know Sattari Taluka, but then for me, when I grew up, I had a notion that Sattari is a backward country. It is, economically and otherwise. It may not be as backward as it was some years back, but then the people of this region have suffered and are suffering from nature's fury and at the same time the fury of their ruthless landlords. And people don't get voice. As just now I think Prakash himself said, and he quoted someone else, but then he said these people didn't have, Pundik Naik once said, he said, आमचे कितल्योश्योच पिळग्यो मोन्यांनी जल्मा आयल्यो आनी मेल्यो. I remember one poet friend of mine, Surjit Patel, he said, साहित्य बेजुबानों की जुबान है. Very important, just few words, but very, poignant. You should realize what is the meaning of it. We have many people, even today, I know many people in my village or even in cities who live their life, but without raising their voice. And this is when a writer comes into picture. A writer has to become voice of the voiceless. That is more important. Everyone has to keep it in mind. Also that म्हणटा प्रकृती आणि विकृती हांचो संघर्ष जेन्ना जाता तातूंतल्यान संस्कृती निर्माण जाता. What does it mean? Prakriti is mother nature and vikriti is where ill thoughts, you can say, or perversities among the people. When the nature and Prakriti and Vikriti are at loggerheads with each other, then it gives birth to Sanskriti. What we see, Sanskriti is the outcome. To put it in academic terms, I would say, when thesis clash with antithesis, what we get, the outcome of it is synthesis. So precisely if we keep this in mind, then it is the role that a writer plays, the role of literature in such circumstances is to see that the truth is not lost in the process. Because this clash will continue. It is an evolution that happens in the society. But we have to be very vigilant, particularly the writer, and literature's role is to remain vigilant to see that truth is not lost. So, probably many of you will have a question for the author here. And generally all writers who are introvert, they think about it. Why does Prakash write? I have my own answer. But when I think of Prakash's purpose of writing, then I found it in his own book, where the back page of the novel that he has written, Puran, it has given a quote by Albert Camus. Albert Camus is my favorite. If you have gone through my novel also, you will find it. So, on the back page, instead of a blurb, he has quoted Albert Camus, who says, and I quote, "The purpose of a writer is to keep civilization from destroying itself," I unquote. This is precisely what Prakash is doing through his writings. I have read all of his stories. All. I can't boast of it. I don't boast of it, but I am very fond of his writings. That's precisely why I don't like to miss any of his stories. I have read in the original, and also now whatever that goes in translation also I read. Sometimes I am not so happy with it. Sometimes I am. because you can't take the idiomatic beauty of the language to other language. Like essence, like you always say this, that when you transfer scent from one bottle to the other, some is bound to evaporate. We have to be ready for that. It does happen. So we can't expect 100% result from any good translation also. But at the same time, it is important that we take the literature from one language to the other. All his stories are very poignant stories, and they have a powerful commentary on the life in Sattari. It need not be Sattari. It can be any part of Goa or any part of India. But when it comes to Sattari and when I read his stories, I must make a mention of the idiomatic beauty of his language, the rich idiom that he brings to the fore. I live in Madhuda in Salsette, but when I read his stories written on the people of or characters or the events of Sattari, I am amazed by the beauty of the language. It is a totally different faction of the same language. So it is very important, very pertinent for you to learn the language of every region. Every language has dialects. So it has Konkani. So Konkani spoken in Kanakona is different from what I write in from Salsette and what Prakash writes from Sattari. Language is the same, but the richness of language you come to know only when you read the language in different dialects. So I am very fond of his writing because I keep learning new terms, new idiom in my language as I read him and also others. Now, for example, we have Hanuman Chapreka sitting here. If I read his poem, when I read his poems, I come across many different things which I have now not come across. And that's the beauty of any literature in any language. Well, I'm overshot, I think. I'll cut short. When you write anything, when we writers write, it's a fiction. And what is the meaning of fiction? Fiction is what is not true. Something told like fiction, but like a real story, but we are told fictionalize and present it. When I write a story, I think it is your story because I have seen something in society. I have, for example, you here, if you have a quarrel with your wife back at home, and I happen to overhear it, then I find some beach for my story. Then I write a story. And when you read it, you think, wow, what a story. It is my story. You don't realize it is your own story. People think it is my story. When I know very well, it is not my story. I am writing your story. This is my experience. But yes, we present in such a way that we wrap it in such a way that you don't realize it is your own. And I may quote here Mridula Garg, who is a very famous Hindi author, Hindi writer, and she said, and I will write to quote her, हम लेखक झूठे लिखते हैं, झूठा लिखते हैं, क्योंकि यह फिक्शन है. झूठा ही सही, जो लिखते हैं नेकी से लिखते हैं. This is very important, the honesty of the writer. जेन्ना तो एखाद्या प्रश्नाक भिडटा, लोकांचे दुःखाक भिडटा, लागी वता, तेन्ना लोकी तुजे बरोबर ते दुःख लागींच्यान पळयतात. This is important. Here where the honesty of a writer to identify with the characters and with the incidents, this comes into picture. So I know I have a lot of things to say about Prakash, about translations, but I am going to control myself. It is the craftsmanship of any piece, of any story, that makes a writer an artist. when you read a story written by him, he mentioned about the characters, Gokane or Audu, and these characters, you like them, but I don't know whether the characters themselves, when they read the stories, when they hear the stories, whether they can identify it, they find themselves in the story. I don't know, I don't think so, because he has written in such a way that the reader will never realize that he is the part of the story. But what is more important is these characters we had mentioned, that Audu or some others, they are no more living now. But I can tell him, when he has written it, now they will live. They have become immortal. It is the author who has immortalized Audu or Parvati and other characters. That is an important role that he has taken up. Stano, and just as I close my comments, प्रकाश पर्येकारानच म्हणलें आमची भास ल्हान भास म्हणून. नेवर से इट अगेन. नो लँग्वेज इज स्मॉल. सगळी लँग्वेजीस, all languages, whether it is the richest language like English or any other language or any European language, or be it Konkani or any small language which is not even recognized at the center, but then no language is small. And जेन्ना एक बायल मेली हांव भाशेंतली, तेन्ना कितलें दुख्ख जालें जे लोक स्पेशलायज आशिल्ले तातूंत तांकां. So people of letters, they realize the importance of any language. Language is an entity. Language is a culture. You cannot afford to let the culture die. With the language dies the culture. And culture is a part of humanity. So that is the reason. And आमची भास कशीच ल्हान न्ही याद धरात. Every language is equally good and equally big. But then one thing is correct, that our speakers number of speakers is less. No language is small. That is one thing. And you also call yourself as a Lan maker. You are not Lan. And don't consider you Lan. I'll tell you. You are my fellow writer, which means you are as important as any other writer. So never consider yourself small. And I think प्रत्येकान लक्षात घेवपाक जाय, कोणीच एक स्वताक आपल्या केन्नाच उणा किंवा ल्हान देखचें न्ही. आमी सगळे, everyone has something special about himself. So that is one thing I wanted to take cognizance of. आणि आतांच आमचे प्रोफेसर धुरीन सांगले की शेतां दोंगर, आतां शेतां गेलीं, आतां दोंगर आसात, पूण दोंगर आसात, I don't fully agree with it. दोंगरांचेरय काळ आयला. Our politicians will not spare anything, whichever benefits them, of course, but then we have to be very, very vigilant about it. And I think authors are already playing their role, but this role also, readers also should play a role in preserving the culture of this place, culture of this region, and rather in the whatever that is in the interest of humanity. So we are also when we write it in such a manner that a reader is inspired to play his own role as an important part of this community. Prakashaले Sahityaचे उलयताले जाल्यार खूब आसा. A lot of things to be talked and discussed. I think more and more seminars and events should take place where we discuss not only Prakash, but there are many others also. But about Prakash, this morning is dedicated to his writing his book. I can foresee what is coming. You will lead the literary scenario of Goa. It is already translated into many other languages, and it is also translated into English. English is a filter language. Once it's a bridge language where people jump from one language to once it is translated into, there will be several other languages will pick up the translated story and then present it in their own language. For example, when it is translated into English, now immediately I am sure within few days you will get calls from Tamil Nadu or Malayalam, Kerala or Karnataka or Hyderabad to take the rights to translate the stories. This is the beauty of translations. Particularly these two languages, Hindi and English, they serve as filter languages which help the translators to carry story from one language to the other. I wish him all the best and thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Damodar Mauzo, for that very enlightening, entertaining and inspiring address. At this point, I'm going to request our author, Dr. Prakash Parienkar, to present a token of our appreciation to each of our distinguished guests, starting with our chief guest for today, Shri Damodar Mauzo, Jnanpith Awardee. Yes, may I request all the dignitaries. So the memento happens to be a miniature crystal tree. And we hope that it serves as a reminder of the bitter fruit tree, but also that the crystal leaves symbolize growth and good fortune. Over to guest of honor, Associate Professor Oscar de Noronha. To the Registrar of Goa University, Professor Sundar Dhuri. To the Dean of Chennai Goenabab School of Languages and Literature, Professor Anuradha Wagle. And I now request Professor Sundar Dhuri, Registrar of Goa University, to present a not-so-bitter fruit tree to Dr. Prakash Parienkar. Thank you, everyone. As we wrap up this inaugural segment, may I request the co-convener of this event, Dr. Murkunde, to propose the vote of thanks.
नमस्कार. हे तिसरं खेपे व्हायला आणि तिसरं खेपे जातकूच आम्ही पावतोसा करतात. नमस्कार. बिटर फ्रूट ट्री अँड अदर स्टोरीज या इंग्लिश अणकारीत पुस्तकाच्या उजवाडवण्याच्या औपचारिक कार्यावळीच्या निमण्यापड्यार आमी हांगा आसात. खंयची कार्यावळ सोपी सुटसुटीत पद्दतीन जर जावपाक जाय जाल्यार त्या लोकांचो पालव, आधार, मार्गदर्शन खूप गरजेचें आसता. आणि हे सगळें मेळ्या उपरांत गरजेचें आसता कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करप. हे पुस्तक उजवाडवण्याच्या सुवाळ्याक आपले आशीर्वाद दिवपाक मुजरत आयिल्ल्या खातीर आमी आमचे मुखेल सोयरे श्री दामोदर मावजो भाई तुमकां आमी माना काळजांतल्यान दिनवासतात. जेन्ना जेन्ना गोंय विद्यापीठान तुमकां उलो मारला तुमी सदांच आमकां प्रतिसाद दिला आणि तुमचो सांगण आनी आशीर्वाद असोच आमकां मेळूं अशें आमी मागतात. तुमकां दिनवास. आयच्या पुस्तक उजवाडवणेक आपली मतां विचार टिप्पणी दिवन पुस्तका बद्दलचे कुतूहल जाणून वाडयले ते सहयोगी प्राध्यापक श्री ऑस्कर दे नोरोना हांकां आमी खास दिनवासतात. देव बरें करूं सर. आमच्या एका उतराक मान दिवं निमण्या खिणार जांकां आमी उलो मारलो आनी निमण्या खिणाक उलो मारिल्ले कडेन सुद्दां जाणी ह्या उल्याक संद मेळ्ळी आनी संदीचे चीज केल्ले आसा ते आमचे गोंय विद्यापीठाचे कुलसचिव प्रोफेसर सुंदर धुरी हांकां आमी खासा दिनवासतात. गोंय विद्यापीठाचे माननीय कुलगुरू सिनियर प्रोफेसर मेनन सर हे कार्यावळीक अध्यक्ष म्हणून आसपा आशिल्ले पूण कांय कारणाक लागून ते उपस्थित रावंक शकले ना. पण तांणी आयोजनाक पालो दिला तशेंच शुभेच्छा आमकां ज्यो परगटायिल्ले आसा ताजी आमी नोंद घेतात आनी तांकां हांगा दिनवासतात. ह्या कार्यावळीच्या आयोजनाक आमकां प्रशासकीय पालो दिल्ल्या खातीर माननीय कुलगुरू कुलसचिव आमच्या महाशाळेच्यो अधिष्ठाता प्रोफेसर अनुराधा वागळे तशेंच इंग्लिश आनी कोंकणी अध्ययन शाखेच्यो संयोजक पूर्वा नायक आनी कृपाली नायक हांकां आमी दिनवासतात. तुमच्या सगळ्यांच्या सहकार्यांची आमी नोंद घेतात. कार्यावळीच्या संयोजनाक रुना मिनेझीस हिणें आपलो सामको जीव ओतिल्लो आसा आनी तिका साथ जी मेळ्ळी ती आमच्या कार्यकर्णी समितीची. ह्या समितीचे वांगडी श्री फ्रांस शुबर्ट कॉर्तर, शमा धारवाडकर, ममता वेर्लेकर, डॉक्टर पूर्वा वस्त आनी आकाश गांवकर हांकां आमी दिनवासतात. हांणी सगळ्यांनी घेतिल्ल्या कश्टाचें गोड गोड फळ म्हळ्यार आयची 3 सूत्री कार्यावळ. फुडल्या 2 कार्यावळीचे जे वांटेकार आसात, द्विभाशीक वाचन वांटेकार जावपी आमचे सांगाती, तशेंच पुस्तकाचे जे चर्चासत्र जातले त्या सगळ्या वांटेकारांचे हांव हांगा उपकार मानतां. हे कार्यावळीक हाजीर राविल्ल्या महाविद्यालयांतल्या शिकोवप्यांक, विद्यार्थ्यांक आनी तांकां परवानगी दिवपी प्राचार्यांक हांव देव बरें करूं म्हणटा. कार्यावळीक हाजीर राविल्ल्या शिकोवप्यांक, लेखकांक, प्रसार माध्यमांतल्या आमच्या इश्टांक हांव तुमचे उपकारी आसा. ताज्या उपरांत औपचारीक कार्यावळ ही आमची जाल्या उपरांत जो अल्पोपहार आसा ताजी तजवीज केल्ल्या खातीर विपुल मोगे हांकां हांव दिनवाजतां. ही कार्यावळ आयोजीत करता आसतना वेगवेगळ्या टप्प्यार हातभार लायिल्ल्या सगळ्या शिकोवप्यांक, कर्मचारी वर्गाक, MTL स्टाफाक तशेंच वेगवेगळ्या अध्ययन शाखेंतल्यान आयिल्ल्या विद्यार्थ्यांक आमी दिनवाजतात. ह्या पुस्तक उजळणीच्या कार्यावळीक वेगवेगळ्या अध्ययन शाखेचे डीन, वायस डीन, प्रोग्राम डायरेक्टर्स आयिल्ले आसात, फॅकल्टी आयिल्ली आसा. तांकां सगळ्यांक आमी देव बरें करूं म्हणटा. तुमचो सांगात मोग असो आमकां लाभचो. मुखेल उपकार आसा आमचे सहकर्मचारी, पुराय सहयोग दिवपी साहित्यीक इश्ट आमचे मार्गदर्शक डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्येकर हांचे. तुमी केल्ली साहित्य रचना ही साहित्य सेवा जी आसा ताका लागून आनी ती तितली तोला मोलाची आशिल्लीच म्हणून तर अणकारली आनी ती अणकारल्या कारणान ह्या सुवाळ्याक आमकां वांटेकार जावपाक मेळ्ळें. एक वेगळे विश्वाची आमकां वळख घडटा अशा वेळाचेर. सो तुमकां आमी दिनवाजतात. देव बरें करून तुमची साहित्य सेवा अशीच फुडें चालू व्हरूं अशी आमी शुभेच्छा दितात. तशेंच कोंकणींतल्यान ह्यो इंग्लिशीन अणकार केल्ल्या खातीर जरी त्यो हांगा सभाघरांत नासल्यो तरी पूण विद्या पै हांची आमी नोंद घेतात आनी तांचे आमी उपकार मानतात. ह्या कार्यावळीचे सूत्रसंचालन करपी अरुणा मिनेझीस तशेंच हेर सत्रांचे जे सूत्रसंचालक आसतले तांकांय आमी देव बरें करूं म्हणटात. चुकून माकून जर कोणाचे उपकार मानपाचें हांव उरिल्लें आसा जाल्यार हांव दिलगिरी व्यक्त करतात. व्हडा मनान तुमी म्हाका माफ करचें अशें हांव तुमचे कडेन मागतां. ह्या कार्यावळीक हाजीर राविल्ल्या खातीर, सहकार्य दिल्ल्या खातीर सगळ्यांच्या मना काळजांतल्यान आयोजन समिती, आमच्या दोन्ही अध्ययन शाखा, आमची महाशाळा आनी आमचे विद्यापीठ सगळ्यांच्या वतीन तुमकां सगळ्यांक देव बरें करूं.
Thank you, Dr. Murkunde. Before we take a refreshment break, may I request the dignitaries to make their way to the audience. We'll take a quick group photograph. Yes, I think, yes, down here so that we get the entire group and the photographs will be taken from here. Yes, okay. Yes, I think it would be better if everyone is seated. Everyone is seated. Sorry? No, I think can we have everyone seated, please? It will make it easier to take a picture. Yes, a couple of you in the middle would be perfect. Yes, in the middle, chief guest, our registrar.
Can you help by putting 1 or 2 chairs to the center?
I think it will. Yes, that should be perfect. It's okay. Sit. Thank you, everyone. I request Dr. Rama to escort the dignitaries to the refreshment area and our guests to wait, our participants and attendees to just wait for 30 seconds while the dignitaries make their way for the refreshments. A couple of announcements. We will reassemble in 15 minutes for a couple of additional sessions, a performative book reading and a book discussion. For those interested in picking up a copy of The Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories, the books are available at the counter outside the hall. This event is supported by Dog Ears Bookshop Margao, the official distributors of The Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories. We will reassemble in a 50.
सभाघरांत हजर आशिल्ल्या सगळ्यांक मायमोगाचो नमस्कार. कार्यावळ मुखार व्हरतना हांव प्रथमी भालचंद्र नायक तुमकां सगळ्यांक परत एकदा येवकार दितां. A word after a word is power, wrote Margaret Atwood, reminding us that literature has the extraordinary ability to transcend boundaries of language, culture, and geography. Today's session, Bilingual Narratives, a performative reading, is a celebration of that very power. We are privileged to have among us the author himself, Dr. Prakash Parienkar, whose book, The Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories, resonate deeply with the readers for its profound themes and narrative artistry. This afternoon, we will experience his stories not just as text on a page, but as living voices, first in the original language, that is Konkani, and then in translation, that is English. For the readings this afternoon, we are delighted to have the esteemed faculty of the Shane Goebab School of Languages and Literature joining us. On the panel, we have Dr. Prakash Parienkar, discipline of Konkani, Dr. Purva Vast, discipline of Marathi, Professor Mamta Velekar, discipline of Hindi, Professor Naresh Naik, discipline of Konkani, Professor Franz Schubert Kota, discipline of Portuguese, Professor Shama Dharwadkar, discipline of French, Professor Anthony Gomes, discipline of French, and Professor Nafisa Oliveira, discipline of English. मागता सगळ्यांकडे आमच्या सगळ्या वाचका खातीर उर्बा वाडोवपी ताळयो जावच्यो. ह्या सत्राची फुडली सुत्रां हांव आमच्या वाचका कडेन सोंपयतां. आयकुया द बिटर फ्रूट ट्री अँड अदर स्टोरीज बाय डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्येंकार.
गोकळ्यात मनाने जाग आहे पोट मागचा निदला त्याच्यात ताणे आपल्या गोवाक बरी येते तिळगो उठलो ताणे फसकाची काळी मारून ते लागीच आशिल्ली चिमणी पेटली. चयेचा इल्ला पाणी जाय आसा काळो सुकान येलो गोकळे अशे रातचे मदींच उठटा. हा वेळा पयलीं ते मोठ्या मोठ्यान पर्वत आले तशें पर्वतकच तळग्याची न्हीद कळटा. हांवें तो हातूंत बसून मिडी ओडटा. आयज म्हाका सुस्त न्हिदून पडलें. ताका जाग आयली ती बडी ते तिळगो उठलो आनी चुली कडेन गेलो. चुलींतल्या गोबराचेर माजर सुस्त न्हिदिल्ली. ताका ताणें कानाक धरून उठयलें. मागीर ताणें चुलींतलो गोबर भायर काडलो. बारीक बारीक शिरपुडो लावन ताणें उजो पेटयलो. तोपांत उदक घालून तोप चुलीर दवरली. चुलीचे वयर ल्हानशी सोय घातली. ताचे वयर 7-8 लांकां दवरली. च्या पावडराची लात काढली. चिमटी मारून च्या पावडर तोपान घातली. साखरेची लात काढली. तातूंत साखर ना ती ताका खबर आसतनाय ताणें ते लात उक्ते केले. त्या लाताचे कुशीक थोडी साखर दशिल्ली तितलीच. तातूंत ताणें इल्लें उदक घातलें. बोट घालून धवळ्ळें. तें पाणी ताणें मागीर पेल्यांत ओतलें. वयल्यान सळसळटी च्या. एक बारीकसो घोट मारलो. च्या गोड जाली.
He took the tea to Gokhale and she gestured to him to set it down. No sugar? She asked. There was a little bit. I've put it in your tea, he said, as he helped her take a few sips. The sweetness filled her mouth and she felt a bit better as the warmth coursed through her body. I'll take you to the big hospital in Bamburi next week. Many people come back from there fully cured, he said. Do you have the money? You have borrowed money for my treatment. Don't borrow anymore. I would have done some work and earned some money if I could, but wretched creature that I am. Don't utter such inauspicious words. I'll arrange the money. The fields are ready to be harvested and the villagers will need cane baskets and winnowing pans and reed mats for the threshing. I've made 5 sets of cane baskets and winnowing pans. I will not take a share of the grain after the harvest this year. I shall ask for money instead. Tirgo was engrossed in telling his wife about the plans he had made, but she had shut her eyes and fallen asleep and was snoring in a short while. He was sitting there, leaning against the wall, when suddenly a thought struck him. He got up and grabbed the little cloth bag that was hanging from a peg on the wall and flopped down again. He emptied the contents of the bag on the floor. There were 2 or 3 tiny boxes, some scraps of paper with words written in English, a few coins, and a 20-rupee note.
मागीर ताणी त्यो डब्यो एक एक करून उक्त्यो केल्यो. 2 रिकामी आसल्यो. तिसरे कागदान कितें तरी दवरला म्हणपाचें तेका थाये पडलें. तेणी तो कागद काडलो. काय या पितूळचो पयसो आसतलो तो. ताणें तो पयसो आर्तो परतो करून बारीक नियाळो. गोकळ्या, तूं एकदां सोदिताना नाणां मेळ्ळा म्हाका. उठ मातसा. ताणें दोळे उक्ते केले. तिग्यान तें नाणें ताच्या हातींत दिलें. ते कितलो तरी वेळ त्या नाण्याक पोशेत रावलें. ताचें तोंड उजाळ्ळें. तें हांसलें. आपूण जावन ताणें हातरुणा वयली फाट उखल्ली आनी वण्टीक तेकयली. म्हाजे मायन दिलां म्हाका हें नाणां. भांगराच आतां. गांवांत कोणाक तरी विचारतूय मिया, हें नाणां भांगराचा काय तो? नाका, खरा कोण सांगचो ना तुका. मी आतां म्हाज्या कडेनूच दवरतोय हें नाणां. सांडूचो ना म्हाका. तेग्या कडेन गोकळ्यान विस्वासान पळयलें. ताणें एक मंद हांसो दिलो. तें अशें हांसतकच ताच्या दाव्या पोल्यार बारीक खळी पडटाली. तेचे आतां पोले बसल्या, दोळे भितर गेल्या, दोळ्यां सकयल्ल्यो कडू काळसर जाल्या. तिरग्यान खुट्याळ्याक लायिल्लें धुलू काडलें. कालूच ताणें तें पुसून परत खुटयेक लायिल्लें. आतां बसून तो धुलूक ओडूंक सोदतालो. धुलूक घेवन खंय जाताय? गोकळ्याचो प्रस्न. फाल्यां आमच्या गांवचो दसरो तो खबर ना तुका? तुज्या शिवाय म्हाका कोण सांगतलो मसनो? एक मात खबर आसा. 3 वर्सां फाटीं ह्याच दिसा मी बरा ना जावन हांतरुणार पडलो. तूं मात धुलूक बरो वाजयतलो. आयकत रावन दिसता म्हाका. खरांच हांवें गेल्या गांवांत म्हाज्या बाबा वांगडा वीज दसऱ्याक जाय. म्हाजो बाबा धुलूक बरो वाजय. खबर आसा म्हाका. म्हाजो मामा तो अशें म्हणून तिळगो मोठ्यान हांसलो.
There was a lot of activity at the Noronha temple since morning, and there was reason enough for this. The bridge across the river had been built before the rain set in, and a road flanked by electric lampposts led right up to the temple. The bridge had been opened for public use, and some of the youngsters in the village had invited the member of the Legislative Assembly to the Dashra festivities. The MLA had promised to come. The young men had been cleaning the area around the temple for the last 8 to 10 days. They had decorated the temple with brightly colored flags. The villagers were convinced that since the new bridge had been built spanning the river, there would be a larger influx of visitors to the temple during the Dashra festivities than they had been in previous years. Tirgo woke up early that morning and helped Kokle with her morning ablutions. He had gone to the village the previous day and bought a packet of biscuits and sugar for 20 rupees. He lit a fire in the hearth and made some tea. Get the medicine from Shagunappa's house, she reminded him as they drank the tea. Yes, he sent word. I'll pick it up on my way home this afternoon. Here, take this pill. Tirgo gave her the medicine she was to take in the morning. I'm sick of these pills. You have to take them. How will you get well if you don't? I've lost my sense of taste. Even water seems tasteless and insipid. I'm fit to die now. Don't say that. I have no one but you. There is no one from our caste in this whole village. I have only one regret. And what's that? I couldn't give you a child. Don't fret about such things now. Get some rest. I must go to the temple. The villagers must be waiting for me. It was 3 years since Kokle had taken to her bed. They had consulted 4 or 5 doctors, but she had not improved. Tirgo was saving money so that he could take her to the hospital at Bamburi. He put on a shirt and trousers and hung the drum from his shoulder. He slung a small cloth bag on his other shoulder and set out for the temple. When he got to the center of the village, he beat on the drum 3 times in a bid to rouse the villagers. One by one, the people emerged from their homes and gathered at the temple.
आजच्या ह्या दिसा सकाळी श्री रवळनाथाक देवाक 10वी माळ पडटा. मागीर देव सातेरीक देवीचे भेटेक वचपाक भायर सरता. भावा भयणीची भेट ती. तरंगा न्हेसोवन तयार असतात. मागीर गांवकार मानेली त्या तरंगा कडेन येवन उबे रावतात. ढोलक्यार बडी बसता. ह ह ह असो भाविकांच्या तोंडांतल्यान सामुहीक आवाज भायर सरता. आवाज इल्लो इल्लो वाडत वयता आनी मागीर मदींच धुलूक वचपाक लागता. तेवूय आपली गती वाडयता. भाविकांचो आवाज आनी ढोलक्याच्या आवाजाची घुम तयार जाता आनी गांवभर पातळटा. ह्या वेळार तरंगा मुखार उबे राविल्ल्या मांडल्यांचेर भार येता. त्या भाराचेर ते तरंगा आपल्या खांदार उखलून घेतात आनी नेटान भायर सरतात. सातेरीचे देवूळ 20 मिनटाचे वाटेर रानान आसा. ही तरंगा ते घेवन अशी रान वाटेन एक सारकी धांवतूच असतात. कारण भयणीचे भेटेक देव रवळनाथ आतुरलेलो असता. वर्सान एकदा दसऱ्या दीस रवळनाथ आपले भयणीगेर वयता. शेकड्यांनी लोक तरंगाच्या फाटल्यान जाल्यार वाजोवपी मात त्या तरंगाच्या फुडें रावन ढोलूक एका गतीन वाजयत रावतात. सकाळच्या मायत्याचे देवळातले काम सोंपले. इतले करता म्हणसर सूर्य माथ्यार येवन उबो आसलो. तिळगो घरची वाट चलतालो. येतना तो वखद हाडपाक सगूण आपाच्या घरा गेल्लो. वखद कशें करून दिवचे ते तिळग्याक ताणें समजावन सांगलें. तिळगो घरा पावलो. ढोलू, खाकेची पिशवी आनी वखद ताणें भायर पडवेर दवरलें. ताचे जागेर माजर धांवतूच भायर आयलें. म्याव म्याव करून ताच्या पांया कडेन घुमळपाक लागलें. हागो, तुज्या बोकड्याक मी वखद घेवन येयलोय. तो मातसो फाटरीर गन कसा वाटून मागीर रोखडीच जेवया आमी. अशें म्हणून तिळगो घरान भितर सरलो. बोकडे वंटीक फाट टेकून बसला म्हणपाचें ताणें अजरतें पळयलें. तिळगो चुली कडेन गेलो. तांदळाच्या डब्याचे धाकणे काडले. तातूंतले मूठभर सुरय तांदूळ काडून गूळ मात घातले. तांबयो भरून उदक घेतलें आनी आसलो तसो तो भायर येलो.
He washed the grinding stone and slab and then poured some water into the vessel to wash the rice clean. He emptied the rice onto the slab and ground it smooth. He untied the bundle of medicinal herbs and leaves and ground them into smooth paste too. He extracted the juice from this paste and poured it into a glass so that half the glass contained medicinal juice and half of it was water. He took the medicine to Gopal's bedside and found her staring blankly with her eyes wide open. Tilgo gazed at her for a moment, noting that her eyelids didn't flutter even though her eyes were open. He set the glass down. "What's the matter, Gopya?" he asked, shaking her by the shoulder as her neck lowered to one side. He straightened her head and neck with both hands as a wave of emotion emerged from the depths of his being and he began to sob like a child. "Forgive me, Gopya, I couldn't take you to a good doctor," he wailed. Tilgo rose to his feet, trying to control his emotions. He knew that he would have to be strong to perform the rituals of death all by himself, since no one from his caste lived nearby. He shoved Gopya closer to the wall so that she was propped up against him and then removed the thin quilt that covered her body. The rituals of death demanded that the corpse be in a seated position, so he first folded Gopal's left leg into position and then carefully folded the right one over it. He stretched both her hands, making them rest against her belly. As Tilgo lit a fire in the hearth of the bathing space, he was overcome with worry about the Dasra rituals. Who would play the drum in the temple now? The villagers would have to be informed. He made his way to the chief Gaunkar's house, but the man was not at home. He told the chief Gaunkar's wife what had happened and returned home. The news soon spread through the village.
गोपाळचो ल्हान ट्रंक आसा. तिळग्यान तो उक्तो केलो. तातूंत 3-4 साडयो आशिल्ल्यो. गावातल्या लोकांनी त्यो आपल्या घरातल्या लग्ना वेळार दिल्यो. तितलेच पळके आशिल्ले भितर. घागरो मात एकूच आशिल्लो. निळ्या रंगाची साडी गोकळ्याक आवडटाली. ती साडी ताणें ताका न्हेसोवपाक खातीर निवडली. मागीर ताणें दिव्याची तयारी केली. ते वाती, फस्ट, उजवाती, फुलां, पिजर एका ताटान घालून दवरली. ही सगळी तयारी केली खरी, पूण गोकळ्याक आतां पुरो खंय हो विचार मनात आयलो आनी तो मोनो जालो. आपल्या पांया पोंदा जमिनूच घसरून दुसरे कडेन वता असो ताका भास जालो. ताची चिंता वाडली. ताणें विडी पेटयली आनी तो ओळीत बसलो. एका काळार ह्या देरोडे गांवाक वर्सयभर वाजोवप घालपी मार नासलो. गरज तेन्ना हे गांवकार भायल्यान वाजोवपाक आपयताले. तिळग्याचो आजो सोमाक ह्या गांवकारांनी आपोवणें धाडलें. सोम येतना गळ्यात घालूनच गांवांत भितर सरलो. गांवकारांनी ताचे कडेन उलोवणी केली. घर बांदपाक ताका जमीन दिवपाचें थारलें. दसरो, कालो आनी शिमकुमो हे ह्या गांवचे 3 मोठे उत्सव. ह्या 3 उत्सवाक 3000 रुपया दिवपाचें थारलें. घरा भोवन परब एकठांय करता ती वेगळी. बेळाची आयदनां करून गांवाक विकपाक मेळीक दिली. सोम खूश जालो. गांवाक ताका जमीन आंखून दिली. त्या जाग्यार तांणी ल्हान चुट्टाची खोप बांदली. बायल आनी भुरग्यांक घेवन तो त्या खोपीन रावपाक लागलो. सोरो पिवन आपल्याक त्रास करता हे निमित्त करून समाची बायल घर सोडून गेली. ती परत घरा म्हणून आयलीच ना. आपल्या भुरग्याक सोमान ल्हानाचो व्हड केलो. पूत ताचो 20-22 वर्सांचो जाता थंय आसा सो नाच जालो. तो खंय गेलो ते कोणाक कळ्ळें लेगीत ना.
Vidya's parents also met with an untimely end. They were crossing the swollen river that flowed past the village when they were both swept away by the raging stream. This sequence of events makes it clear that this family had never had the occasion to bury a family member. But Tirgo was faced with this predicament today. He made his way to the chief Gaonkar's house and squatted on the low compound wall. "What is the matter, Tirgya?" the chief Gaonkar asked. "Gokhale is dead, Gaonkara. I know. You should be relieved. You've taken care of her for 3 years now. Don't get upset. Dead people don't come back. Wait till Diwali is over and get married again." "Do me a favor, Gaonkarano." "What? It's Dasera today. Don't sit at my door with such a mournful expression. Give me a bit of land." "Land? What do you need land for?" "To bury Gokhale." "No, you won't get land. No one in the village will give you land to bury a corpse." "I'm in deep trouble, Gaonkara," Tirgo continued. But the Gaonkar didn't wait to listen to his woes. He vanished into the house and didn't come out again. Tirgo waited for him to emerge, but neither the Gaonkar nor anyone from the family appeared at the door. He got up with a heavy heart. He was confused and didn't know what to do. There were 4 or 5 houses that belonged to the farmers in the village, and Tirgo decided to approach one of them for help. When he got to Vasu's house, the man was sitting on his porch, puffing on a beedi. Tirgo bared his bruised soul. "I need a patch of land to bury Gokhale Dada," he said. "Ask the chief Gaonkar." "I'm coming from his house." He says no. "In that case, you won't get a patch of land from anyone in this village. We are outsiders who have settled in this village. We must do whatever the original settlers, the Gaonkars, say. We are with them, always." "Hey Vasu, are you planning to give him the land?" The chief Gaonkar saw Vasu talking to Tirgo and called out to him. "No, Gaonkara, where will I get the land?"
"Tirgya, हांगा यो." "येयलो गांवकारा. आमच्या न्हंये पलतडी काजऱ्याचें एक मोठें झाड आसा. न्हंयच्या देवण्यार उबो रावल्यार दिसता तें. त्या काजऱ्याच्या पोंदाक घाल तेका. वयल्यान मोठे गुणे दवरपाक विसरूं नाका, नाजाल्यार जनावरां वचून खातली तेका. आनी आयक, तूं ह्या गांवांत परत येवं नाका. निपुत्रीक तूं. तुका जाय न्ही चल. आयज दसरो वाजोवपाक आमी दुसरो वाजोवपी सांगला. अशें सांगून गांवकार नेटान देवळा वटेन गेलो. गांवकार न्हंयच्या पलतडची जमीन टिळग्याक दिवन गेल्लो. गांवा भायली जमीन ती सरकाराच्या अधिकारा खाला आशिल्ली. फॉरेस्ट खात्याची जमीन. जमनीचो प्रश्न सुटलेलो खरो, पूण एक नवो प्रश्न गांवकारान तेग्याच्या तकलेर ओतून गेल्लो, गांव कायमचो सोडपाचो प्रश्न. निपुत्रीक हें कारण ताणें फुडें केल्लें. निपुत्रीक तूं. हे गांवकाराची सांगणी तेग्याच्या काळीज हालोवन गेल्ली. तेग्याच्या दोळ्यांत दुकां धाडली. ताणें स्वताक सांबाळून घेतलो. गळ्या कडेन आयिल्लो मुंडको ताणें भायर फुटूंक दिलो ना. तो ताणें आख्खो घेवलो. खाना वयलो तुवालो तेग्यान तकलेर उडयलो आनी तो आपल्या घरा वटेन चलपाक लागलो. जड पावलांनी तिगो घरांत भितर सरलो. काजऱ्या पोंची जमीन मेळ्ळी गो तुका गोकळ्या, तर या आतां आमी अशें म्हूण एकठांय केल्लें सगळें सामान घेवन तो भायर तुळशी कडेन आयलो. थंयच लागींच ताणें तें सगळें दवरलें. कोयतो घेवन एका फुटाक तांच काडलें. तुळशी मुखार 5 फुटाच्या अंतराचेर ताणें जमनीत फूट मारलो. त्या फुटाक तेकून पांच दवरलो. तिगो घरांत गेलो आनी सगळी शक्त लावन गोकळ्याक उखलून घेवन आयलो. भायर तुळशी मुखार दवरिल्ल्या पाटार ताका बसयलें. न्हाणींतलें गरम उदक बालदेंत काडलें. बालदेंत उखलून तुळशी कडेन हाडली. गोकळ्याचे केंस सोडयले आनी 4-5 तांबे उदक ताचे तकले वयल्यान ओतलें. वनाचे विधी प्रमाण तेका ताणें न्हावपाक घातलें. तुवाल्यान पयलीं ताचें तोंड पुसलें, वले जाल्ले केंस पुसले, हात आनी पांय पुसून काडले. केंसांत खोबरेल तेल घातलें. मदीं भांग काडून केंस उगयले. केंसांचो आमाडो घातलो. नवे साडयेची घडी मोडली. साडी कमरा भोंवतणी घुंवडायली आनी गांठ मारून घट केली. फुडल्यान मिरयो काडल्यो आनी त्यो पोटा कडेन खोयल्यो. ताचो पदर काडून खानार उडयलो. कपळाक कुकूम लायलो. गोकळ्याच्या हातींत कांकणां ना तेच्या लक्षांत आयलें. तो तसोच घरांत भितर गेलो. फळयेर दवरिल्लीं कांकणां हाडलीं. ती बरी पुसलीं आनी ताच्या दोनूय हातांक ताणें ती चडयलीं. काडी मारून दिवो पेटयलो. उजवात पेटयली. पोरसांतलीं रोजां काडून हाडलीं आनी केंसाच्या आमाड्याक 4 कडेन 4 खोयलीं.
Tirgo was dark of skin, but Gokhale was fair and as pretty as a doll when they first got married. One day, one of the Gamkar's wives commented that Gokhale didn't look like someone from the Mar community. She looked as though she belonged to a higher caste. Now, where is this Vittar Rukmai off to? People would say if they spied the couple going somewhere together. And Gokhale would be pleased at this reference to the deities of Pandharpur. Tirgo brought the pickaxe and stood it on end at the edge of the courtyard. He went into the hut and picked up a bed sheet that was hanging from the rod. He loosened Gokhale's legs that had been folded into a cross-legged position and stretched them out, passing the bed sheet under her heels and legs and hips, drawing it up to her waist. Tirgo spread Gokhale's legs wide apart and squatted between them. He lifted each leg and stretched it along his thigh and ensured that her arms were slung forward over his shoulders. He adjusted the bed sheet slightly and drew both the lower ends together, knotting them at his waist. He maneuvered the upper edge of the sheet carefully and tied the upper ends together at his chest. He looped a towel about Gokhale's waist and knotted the ends tightly in front of his stomach. The whole process took a lot of effort, and Tirgo sat there quietly. Summoning all his strength, he finally lumbered to his feet, slipping his hands under Gokhale's thighs and hoisting her up with him. The 2 ends of the sheet that had been fastened at his waist came loose in the process, and he had to tug at the cloth and make a fresh knot. Tirgo bent down slightly, grabbed the pickaxe, and slung it on his shoulder. He burst outside the door of the hut and stood ajar. "Come with me," he said to the cat that lounged at the door. "Your friend won't be here any longer. She's moving to a spot under the kazra tree." And then Tirgo made his way out of the courtyard with Gokhale strapped onto his back. The sun beat down fiercely as Tirgo walked towards the river. He wanted to get to the river bank, cross the river, and get to the spot beneath the kazra tree. "Don't go this way. It leads to the temple. Don't you know that the temple festival is going on? We don't want you to pollute the area. Take that track, the one that the cattle take." Shivlo Gaonkar stopped him midway. Move fast now. It's almost time for the MLA to arrive. Couldn't Gokhale find another or a better time to die?
तिळगो कांयच उलयलो ना. मान सकयल घालून तो फाटी परतलो. गोरवांची वाट हसकडाची, काट्या बुट्टातली. तो ते वटेन भितर गेलो. कांय अंतर चलतकच उजव्या अर्दान एक अशीर वाट न्हंये वटेन गेल्या म्हणपाची ताका दिश्टी पडली. आपले फाटीर आपली बायल आसा. आपूण चलता तशी ती आतां आपणाक चड लागपाक लागल्या अशें ताका दिसपाक लागलें. ओ गोकळ्या, म्हाजेर एकल्याचेर असो भार घालून वयतले म्हणून खबर नासलें म्हाका. खूब बेगीन गेलय तूं गोकळ्या. मी काय म्हणटा तें आयकतय तूं? गोरवांची वाट अडचणीची, सोंपेल्ली. आतां तो न्हंयच्या देवण्यार गेल्ले वटेन पाविल्लो. गांव फाटी गेलो गोकळ्या. आनी मातसो चलतकच गांवा भायर पावतली आमी. कोण ना म्हाका ह्या गांवांत गोकळ्या आतां. गांवकारांनी धांवडायलो म्हाका. दसऱ्या दिसाच गांवचे शिमे भायर काडलो. उभव, न्हंयचो आवाज येता. आयक सारको. न्हंयचेर पावलोय मी आतां. न्हंये पलतडी तुजो आतां जागो. दिसता तुका आतां काजराचें झाड? उलय मगो काय तरी. वयता वयता 4 गजाली तरी सांग. तिळगो न्हंयच्या देवण्यार पावलो. गोकळ्याचे पाय ताणें आपले वटेन ओडून घेतले. सदळ जाल्ली चादरीची गाठ ताणें परत ओडून मारली.
The river gurgled along, and Tirgo tried to decide on the route he was to take as he stepped into the water. The pebbles on the river bed were smooth and slippery with moss. He knew that he would lose his balance if his foot got stuck between 2 stones. "Sit tight now," he said to his wife. "Tell me if you're feeling scared. I have to cross the river." Tirgo slowed down, putting one foot in front of the other very carefully, as he strove to maintain his balance. They were midway through the river now. "Hey, Gokhale, listen. Let me tell you about my father and mother. One day, my father had to cross the river during the rainy season. My mother was with him. It was raining heavily up in the hills, and suddenly, the water level in the river began to rise. A huge wave swept them both away. Their bodies were never found." "Did you hear what I just said? Shall we jump in the water too and get swept away?" Tirgo was wading through a stretch of waist-deep water and was almost drenched. They got to the other bank, and the sound of the drum being beaten in the temple carried to his ears. Lord Ravanath's spirit must have taken possession of the Gaonkar who carried the holy Tarna of Lord. "Gokhale, listen!" The ha sounds that emerged in unison from the throats of the assembled devotees reached his ears. He could hear the drum beats picking up speed. Tirgo was enthralled by the sound of the drum. He would behave as though he were in a trance as he pounded on the drum.
तिळगो आता पलतडच्या रानाची वाट चलतालो. न्हंयचे तडे रावून काजऱ्याचे उंच झाड पालतायले. पयलीं मातशी चडटी आनी मागीर सपाट वाट काजऱ्याच्या झाडापोंच्यान फुडें रानाक वयताली. तिळगो काजऱ्याच्या झाडापोंदा वचून उबो रावलो. 2 जाणांच्या वेंगेन मावचे ना येदे मोठे ताचे ते काण आशिल्ले. भोंवतणच्या परिसरांत शितळसाण दाटून आशिल्ली. लागींच एक सुकें खोड तिळग्याक दिश्टी पडलें. खानावयलो पिकास काडलो आनी जमनीर दवरलो. त्या खोडाक तेंकून तो जमनीर बसलो. तुवालांनी चादरीच्यो गाठी एक एक करून सोडयल्यो. गोखल्याक त्या खोडाचो आदार दिलो. ताची मान ताणें सारकी केली. ताचे हात पोटा कडेन आडवून दवरले आनी तो जमनीर आडवो पडलो. कांय वेळ तो तसोच पडून रावलो. आपूण खंय तरी दुसऱ्या जगांत आयला अशें ताका दिसपाक लागलें. ताचे दोळे दुखांनी भरले आनी मागीर गळपाक लागले. "गोखळ्या, ए गोखळ्या, उठ आतां. हो पिकास घे आनी मार खड्डो. दोगांय बसुया भितूर. म्हाज्या आंगांत आतां ताकद कांयच उरक ना." कांय वेळ असोच गेलो. ह्या काजऱ्याक सारखं बघून घे. ह्या काजऱ्याचा पाळ कोडू, साल कोडू, काजऱ्याचा पान कोडू, फुलां कोडू, फळा त्याची कोडू, सगळं कोडू. सावळी मात तिळगो उठलो आणि कुपळ्याकडे गेलो. ताणें ताच्या केंसा वयल्यान नळंग हात भोंवडायलो. तोंडार आयिल्ले केंस सारके केले आनी मागीर ताच्या कपळाचो उमो घेतलो. ताणें ताच्या ह्या रानांतल्या झाडांक बारीक पारखून दवरलो. वेगवेगळ्या जातीची झाडां आसत ह्या रानांत. पानां, फुलां, फळां, रंग सगळाच वेगळा. पूण त्याच्या मनात भेदभाव कसलोच ना गोखले. कसलोच फरक करीत नात ती. फरक करतात ती मनशां. झाडां एकामेकाक तेकून उबी आसतात रानांत, पूण कसलाच किचील ना तेंचो. मनशाचा मात तसा ना. उठ्ठा बसतात, जात लागता तेंका. झगडांक फुरफुरतात ती, धमकायतात, गाळी घालतात. असो खूब जाला माझा ह्या सांग. वाज उलो आसतलो तुका आयकन. एक मात निमणा सांगतोय तुका. गांवा कडेन मी भीक मागली, पूण हक्काचो वायट जमनीचो पुटको गावलो ना तुका पुरूंक. जल्मभर मनात उरतला ह्या म्हाज्या सगळं. तिळग्याची नदर कोगळ्याच्या उजव्या हाती कडेन गेली. ताची ती मूठ बंद आसली. ते बंद मुठी कडेन तो कांय वेळ पळयत रावलो. मागीर ताणें ताची मूठ कश्टान सोडयली. ताचे ते मुठींत ते भांगराचें नाणें आशिल्लें. तिळग्यान तें नाणें आतून परतून पळयलें आनी मागीर कळसवाच्या बॉल्सान घातलें. तो उठलो, पिकास हातान घेतलो. निवळशी सुवात पळोवन थंय तो उबो रावलो. कोण खणपाक पिकासाच्या तोकान जमनीर चौकन काडलो. बॉल्सांतले नाणें ताणें त्या चौकना भितर उडयले. तुज्याच भांगराच्या नाण्यान इकती घेता जमीन. म्हाका माफ कर गोंयकार, म्हाका माफ कर अशें म्हणून ताणें पिकास हातींत घेतलो. गोगळ्या खातीर फोण खणपाक आशिल्ली नाशिल्ली सगळी शक्त ताणें एकठांय केली आनी जमीन नेटान पिकास. धन्यवाद. देव बरें करूं.
Good afternoon. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to wrap up the session. So we just witnessed a performative book reading of the titular story, The Bitterfruit Tree. I can say that the performative reading was quite a success because I can see a few moist eyes. So it has achieved its objective. But the objective was also to bring out the beauty of the translation. And like Professor Bagley said in the morning, translation of stories or novels which are written in one language into another language takes the literature to that language. So that was the purpose of this book reading. And as we celebrate International Translation Day on the 30th of September, this was also a way to celebrate that day and commemorate that day. So thank you. Thanks for listening to us today. Can you have a group photo? Can we have a group photo somewhere? We can just stand here behind the table.
Thank you.
That was a very lively, impactful and heart-touching reading. म्हाका दिसता शणै गोंयकार महाशाळेचे प्रत्येक नाणे खरेंच ठरले म्हणून चूक जावची ना. परत एकदा सगळ्या वाचकां खातीर एकदा मोठ्यान ताळयो जावून. Moving forward, George Steiner once said, without translation, we would be living in provinces bordering on silence. Translation is not merely about words. Translation is not merely about words, but also about carrying stories across cultures and giving them new life. This session, The Trials and Travails of Translation, features the author along with the invited writers, translators and academicians who will share their insight on the book's broader themes, the art of translation in contemporary literature, and the challenges and triumphs of writing, translating and publishing. To lead and anchor the conversation, we are honored to have among us Ms. Sahitya Pandit, along with other panelists, Dr. Akshata Bhatt, Dr. Frederick Noronha, Dr. Glennis Mendonça, and Dr. Hanuman Choprekar. I request all of them to come up on the stage. A brief introduction about our panelists for the day. Dr. Akshata Bhatt is an assistant professor in the Department of English, DCT's Sembe College of Arts and Science. She completed her doctorate on green cultural studies, theoretical perspectives, textual perceptions, and practical application, and has also completed a UGC-funded minor research project. She has published papers in journals and books, and has presented papers at various international and national conferences. She is also a translator and has undertaken translation of short stories for children from Konkani to English and English to Hindi. Dr. Frederick Noronha is a journalist, writer, and alternate publisher of books. He is the founder editor of Goa 1556, which has published around 170 titles, mainly non-fiction related to Goa, an active online networker. He is also the founder of DocuWalas 2, a pan-India documentary network on WhatsApp that operated for over a decade. He focuses on writing on free software, open source ICT for development, IT and related issues, and also specializes in book reviews, blogs, alternative communications, and writing about documentary film in India. Dr. Glennis Mendonça is an Associate Professor and HOD, Department of English of Carmel College of Arts, Science and Commerce for Women, Goa, and has been teaching for nearly 2 decades. She completed her doctorate on Konkani fiction in English translation in 2017 and has published several research papers, articles, and book chapters. She has also served on the Board of Studies English, Goa University from 2017 to 2021. Dr. Hanuman Choprekar is an associate professor of Konkani and Vice Dean Academic, Sahitya Akademi School of Languages and Literature, Goa University. His doctoral research focused on the state language movement of Konkani and scientific valuation of social language. He has more than 27 books to his credit. This includes scholarly and research-based books as well as those in creative writing genres like drama and poetry. His areas of interest include folklore, language movement and linguistics, and he has presented over 30 research papers at national and international seminars. And the chair for today's session, Ms. Sahitya Pandit. Ms. Sahitya's first real job was with famed ethologist Dr. Jane Goodall on a chimpanzee research station in Tanzania, Africa. On her return to India in 1983, Sahitya volunteered with Bombay Environmental Action Group and initiated several heritage preservation projects through the Indian Heritage Society, Bombay chapter. Ms. Sahitya Pandit is a Homi Bhabha Fellow and a co-founder of Heritage First Goa. She is the author of 11 books on Goan heritage, art and culture. Her Marathi to English translations have been published in Goa Puri and Ferry Crossing, an anthology of Goan short stories edited by Fulbright scholar Manohar Shetty. Grinding Stories, Songs from Goa, and Grinding Stories Retold are anthologies of songs sung at Grinding Stone, translated by her from the original Marathi Konkani dialect. She is currently working on a book titled Objects and Memories from Goa. She lives in Saligam and is a pet parent to her 3 beloved pet dogs. A round of applause for all our panelists. The stage is yours.
नमस्कार सगळे भाव भयणू आणि तुमकां हे चर्चेन डिस्कशनान मोगाचो येवकार. वेरी वॉर्म वेलकम टू यू फॉर दिस डिस्कशन. म्हाका हांगा उपस्थित रावन एकूच अनुभव आहा. ते अनुभव हांव कित्याक कितें जाणा Bye. Bye Kityak, because every time I meet Runa in the hall, she says, your time is reduced now. So my request to my fellow panelists is please restrict yourself to 6 minutes. I have my colleague Harihara here who will lift his phone and signal to you that your time is up. Before that, हांव एकूच गजाली सांगता की गोवा माझं जन्मभूमी न्हय पण माझी कर्मभूमी आहा. And before we go further, I want to read something from this book which you are probably quite familiar with. Everybody should take a copy of this book from your library. It's titled Caste and it's authored by Isabel Wilkerson. I will just read one paragraph to open the discussion on the bitter fruit tree, because the book is not just about stories, about ecology, about culture, but it's also about caste. And in Goa, I've been here 30 years, and this is the first time we're actually openly talking about caste. So, too, with the caste system, as it goes about its work in silence, the string of a puppet master, unseen by those whose subconscious it directs, its instructions and intravenous drip to the mind, cast in the guise of normalcy, injustice looking just, atrocities looking unavoidable, to keep the machinery humming, the matrix of caste as a facsimile for life itself, and whose purpose is maintaining the primacy of those hoarding and holding tight to power. I'm going to stop here. We'll open this for discussion. Who would like to go first? Glennis?
How many minutes?
You've only got 6 minutes. Sorry.
I have to go to the podium?
No, you can hear.
Okay. The bitter, this is not working. Test, check, test.
Yeah.
Test, check. Test. The Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories by Prakash Parienkar, translated by Vidya Pai, is a wonderful collection of short stories. The first collection into English from Prakash Parienkar to us, because these stories for me, in fact I have studied these stories and I have used them in my thesis, some of them, that's how I've acquainted myself with the author, have already been published earlier, and I am looking at the retranslation. When I'm reading them, I'm looking at the supreme sacrifice as the sacrifice. I'm looking them at Kazarfal in English as the trap. I'm looking at a retranslation. A few of them are new to me. Some of them, most of them are retranslated. So when I read them, I'm looking at them from the researcher's point of view, from the perspective of a translator, from the perspective of a scholar who is doing translation studies. And I'm finding it quite fascinating because she's used a lot of new techniques, new ideas, new perspectives, which she has consistently grown with from her very first venture of translation, which was of a novice in 2002 of translating the upheaval, that is Achev as the upheaval of Pundlik Naik, to the Bitter Fruit Tree, and all her translations that I have read and tracked the translator, to look at the process and the manner in which she is translating. I am seeing a significant growth curve. I'm seeing a significant growth and the use of techniques, though she herself has admitted that she has no clue about all the processes and the techniques of translation, she has shown. One of the techniques which I love that she is using here than the first translation that she has done, because they have got, I have read them in Goa today, most of them. Is thick translation. Okay, I'd like to point this technique which she is using, which is a technique which was put forth by K. Anthony Apaya. It means that you, especially untranslatable words from the Sattari region, she has managed to translate them. I'll give you the example of the title story, Kazro. You know, in the 90s, if she had translated it, she would have kept it as Kazro. But like how she kept Varsal as Varsal in her first translation. But here she called it the beat of the drum. She calls it the bit of fruit tree here, which means she puts a comma the first time and then she says the bit of fruit tree. But she has not been consistent in giving that thick translation in pages like 49, because there are more trees here mentioned in the story Fruits of Labor. And I'll give you an example. Babi knew the names of all the local birds and could spot a katko or a pitkoli or a kuanki or a guswado or a kumatkai. But he couldn't identify the Tita Pai. Here she is not giving a thick translation. She's kept the words the same. She's not given a thick translation. So she has negotiated cleverly. Wherever she wants, she has given a thick translation. Wherever she doesn't want, she has kept the untranslatability. So the negotiation of the translator is what I am delving with when I am looking at it as a retranslation, because I have read these stories when she has translated and published it first. So this is the point I want to start with. Thank you.
Frederick will go last. Would you like to?
Thank you. I think Ma'am Glennis has given a befitting start to this. Considering that there is a substantial student population here, I would probably address them in my short, whatever it is I'm going to say. So first, speaking of the work and Prakash sir's work in general, let me just start with a small anecdote. I was a student at Goa University in 2012, and that's when I read the first story, the one that has been translated as The Sacrifice in this book. And that was a time when I was just developing interest in my thesis area, that is green studies, etc. And I had read so many of these the so-called Western theories and approaches. I read biophilia and deep ecology, and they seemed distant, but I was so fascinated by them. And then I read Prakash sir's work, and I was surprised. I said, everything that I had read theoretically is here in his work, okay, and in the form of a beautiful narration. And I remember walking up to him. I got to meet him, and I was scared. I was speaking to this author, and what would he say? Would he say, oh, you don't know anything? But little did I know that Prakash sir is the most humble person you can meet. And I asked him, I said, what about these theories? And I can see this in your story. And back then he said something that he reiterated today. He said, this is the reality that I see around, I observe, and I record it. And that is the beauty of these stories, and we could see it in the performative reading. One thing, students, that I would like to, point out and indicate, throughout this series, this entire translation, I was just mesmerized by the biodiverse indexing, that is what I would like to call it, that Prakash sir does. Did you see the number of trees and biodiversity and the indigenous trees that he mentions? The medicinal plants, the trees that are native to a certain land, the trees that are culturally rooted, and they have so many stories around them in that particular village. There is an attachment to it. But apart from that, there are also scientific facts about it that are handed over to us in such a seamless fashion. We speak of interdisciplinarity and this and that, and we like to sort of segregate areas and say this is a field of study, that is a field of study. But here is a writer who's bringing it all together, and he's living that, we call it environmental humanities or consciousness, and he's passing it on to us. His stories become that conduit of us realizing and actualizing that nature around us. And I would be so glad if some of us are inspired to take this work forward and actually tell the world that this is what we have to offer. From the point of view of translation, Ma'am Glennis has already mentioned about big translation. There is also a wonderful theory, the Scopus theory, if any of you have heard of it, by Hans Vermeer, and it speaks of the function of translation. What does the ST, that is the source text, do in its source language? And the translator tries to take that function or that purpose into the target text. And this is where I think we must really applaud the translator, because that purpose of translation, I think, stays. It's something that she has taken over. You feel, you hear the voices of the voiceless. And I think that is the purpose that this translation serves. Thank you so much. I think I took a little bit more time. Thank you very much.
My name is appearing at the last, so I will go last. Please, sir, please. I'm from Goa University. I'll take
just mic.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for that.
With respect, sir.
Yeah, no problem. I'm coming in from a slightly different point of view. I really loved Professor's short stories, so that's known. My dismay that in English there is very little space for short stories, and if there's no demand, there's not going to be a supply. That's also a view which I keep kind of pushing at every stage, so I won't go into that. Today I'm focusing in bullet points to remain within the time on the need for translations and the importance of translations. Okay, so I'm going to make 10 very brief bullet points. And the first one is that we don't accept, but we are a multilingual society. In that sense, Goa is terribly multilingual, to use the word wrongly. And it is, Peter Nazareth, who did this anthology in '83 and who was one of my gurus in my college days, he mentioned that Goans had written in 13 languages. When I was recalculating in the 2020s, it turns out that they have written and got published in 19, 20, 21, depending on how you count languages across the world. So, of course, the Indian languages are there, then there's Swahili, Russian, all kinds of languages that you can think of where they got published in these languages, including Latin. So, that's the first point. The second point is that translation is badly needed. Okay, there's no doubt about it. Everyone has underlined this point. But at the same time, it's not happening enough. Okay. I also feel that students can do a lot in this front. Students can do a lot. I'll come to that later. I'll explain why. All of us in this room are multilingual. If I ask how many of you speak 1, 2, 3 languages, you'll have hands going up. I've come across students who said we know 7 languages. Have some knowledge of 7 languages, not mastery, some knowledge of them. And they said, sir, we want to learn Russian now because it's in the coastal belt and in parts of Badis and Penne, that was becoming important at that time. Okay, so this is not unusual in our society. Try to realize the importance and the skills that you all have. Make the most of it. The fourth point I want to make is that Goa University has a role to play in this regard. I'm so happy that the registrar said that they have plans for a translation cell, but we need more than a translation cell. We need a center. You have all the ingredients. We are just waiting for a cook to come and put it together. Because the schools are there, the languages are there. We need some kind of a crowdsourced model. I'm not talking about funding where we have a huge infrastructure and does only formal documents, but a kind of crowdsourcing, the kind of intermingling of the different languages so that these things that can actually happen, maybe groups working in teams or whatever it takes. It's also very practical, as I was saying. It need not even cost a lot of money to put the ingredients together. Okay. The sixth point is that Konkani needs translation. Today there was a debate and my friend Bai Mauzo said that don't call it a small language, but the fact is that all things being equal, all languages are not equal. I'm sorry to tell you that. So we know that languages, scripts, dialects have their own relative power, and the power depends on something else. It's not a coincidence that even you see the greats of world literature. I mean, when Greece and the Romans are on top of the world, Their writers are on top of the world, okay? Then you come down, say it's no coincidence that Shakespeare and Camões come out when the Portuguese and the British empires are at the top. Then you move on to the French and you move on to someone else, and in the 1980s or 1990s, India gets its own spot in the sun, and somewhere the Japanese come up. So it's got to do with economic power, it's got to do with market sizes. These are the harsh realities. And I think small languages like Konkani or Konkani languages with a few speakers need translations more than others. The fact of the matter is that the writers who are best known are the writers who have gone in for translation. So I'm saying, please let's acknowledge it and go in for it, okay? And also other languages need translations. So there's a Brazilian group called Pensando Goa trying to study Goan literature, and they are stuck to Portuguese because they can understand it, English because they can understand it. They are looking for translations from Konkani, Marathi, and it's happening in a very limited way. That's all. That's a reality. Okay. At another level, translations can be used as a language learning tool. And this also goes with the ninth point, that today you have machine translation, you have so many other options. I know this is a very unacademic point of view, and I'm also conscious of the fact that to my right sits Dr. Glynis, who has done a full PhD on translations. Please download her thesis from Shodh Ganga and go through it and see the points she makes. So I'm saying things that are probably very wrong, and she understands where it is wrong. But with machine translation, a lot of things are possible. So people like me, unpads, in languages like Portuguese, which I know maybe 5% of or 10% of, and German, which I was just for 3 months on a scholarship in Germany. I studied it maybe for 14-15 hours. With machine translation, we can translate some work. It's a hazardous approach. It's not safe. You're going to get it wrong. Even 80%, 90% is not good enough. Okay, but there are tools like, say, the Wikipedia translation tool. Just go and experiment, students and anyone. It's an excellent tool. One side you get it in the target language, the other side in the source language, and then you have this help where it automatically translates, but it will not accept fully automated translation. So it wants human intervention. And then if you do a bad job, there is someone else who will come and improve your job there. So it's all this kind of collaborative functioning which is taken to a very high level with the latest tools that are available there. And professor from the French department, sorry I'm bad with names, I'm going to forget my own name one of these days. Not Bagley. I mean your youngster who is an engineer and in your department. Shama Darvadkar. So she has actually done so much work on machine translation and things like that. As an experiment, I've translated a 15,000 word essay on a topic which is close to my heart, the history of the book in Brazil, and it survived on the Wikipedia. It's got improved with time. I really don't know how accurate it is, but we are getting there. And the last point I want to make is that translation is something where everyone gains. So it's a win-win game. It's an absolute win-win game. This point has come out repeatedly in the morning, since the morning. That's all I have to say. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Frederick. It's a completely new, turned around kind of point of view. I would like our last speaker to speak, to carry the discussion further.
Thank you so much, madam. I have requested my fellow participant to keep me last, because I know I'm from Goa University. I'm also from discipline of Konkani. I think I'm not going to take much of your time, but I have some different opinion about this book. My fellow participant has tried to focus on the translation aspect of this particular short story collection. But we must not forget that this book is originally written in Konkani by Dr. Prakash Parienkar. And without understanding the social, cultural background of Dr. Prakash Parienkar, I think we won't be able to understand or review the literature he has written. Because Aristotle has said, I always believe that, I quote, he said that, Aristotle has said that, educating mind without educating heart is not a real education. Means, I want to give an example of Dr. Prakash Parienkar, because before entering into the school, he might have got education for his heart, and that is within his family, the environment in which he grown up, and also from the elderly people, and also from the cultural the richness heritage which he is in, or which he witnessed in his childhood. Actually, I want to say that Dr. Prakash Parenkar's characteristics or character we have to understand, and then only we can understand the stories or the character and the climax he has been portrayed in that stories. And without understanding that particular aspect, I don't think we will be able to understand or decode his stories or his particular what he exactly want to say. I personally visited his village several times. I have seen the cultural heritage richness of his village. I have seen many people. I am also coming from farmer family. I am also coming from remote area, and we have spent many nights together, and we understand what is Dr. Prakash Parienkar. I will give an example in English because anyhow I am not comfortable in English, but I have to give this example. He only gave me this example once. I don't know whether he remember or not. He said that we have to take care of our thought when we are alone. We have to take care of our thought when we are alone, and we have to take care of our words when we are with the people. हे जे शब्द आसा ताची जी थियरी वा फिलॉसॉफी आसा ती डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्येकर हांकां लागू जाता आनी ताका लागून ही कॅन कम अप विथ दिस टायप ऑफ वेरी ब्युटिफूल एंड मिनिंगफूल स्टोरी जो फकत इट्स क्रॉस द बॉर्डर ऑफ कोंकणी इंग्लिशीन वता द्रविडियन लँग्वेजीन वता आनी संवसारांतल्या साबार लँग्वेजीन वता आनी एज बाई हॅज सेड की next 10 to 15 years are yours, Dr. Prakash Parienkar. Coming on with the stories, I have gone through the original stories in Varsal, and also I was reading his stories before it come up in a short story collection published by Vidya Pai. And after translating recently, I have gone through all these English stories. That is different thing. I didn't understand all the aspects since it is in English. I am not comfortable with English. Let me be very frank. But Dr. Vidya Pai has translated these stories into English, and what I observed as a critic, I can say that, especially with reference to the cultural aspect of the stories, because I believe that Dr. Prakash Parenkar's stories, in his stories, the cultural references, the nature, the ecosystem plays a very vital role, and I believe that those are characters in the stories. You can take example of any stories, that is the sacrifice, that is Mahabali, the trap, Ani Tep Pot Gyun Gele. I think this name has been adopted from this Pundik Naik one act plays, that name of this story. The Pundik Naik's Sahitya Akademi-prizewinning short story, one act play collection. In that one act play is there, Ani Tep Por Nagre Churta. We must understand the impact, because Dr. Prakash Parienkar role model is Pundik Naik, Mahabaleshwar Seth, and Damodar Mauzo. I remember Akshar Damodar was one of the national seminar organized by DAG and Government College Cape, in which one of the book has been released on Damodar Mauzo by Gulzar. During that, one question was asked to Damodar Mauzo. It was an open session, and Damodar Mauzo was sitting on the stage, and one of the audience mischievously he asked, "Have you created any Damodar Mauzo with your writings? Have you inspired?" I don't know how the Bhai Mauzo didn't answer that particular person, but I can answer that. Bhai Mauzo has created Dr. Prakash Parienkar as a short story writer from Konkani, and he has an impact on not only on the Konkani and Goan literature, but on the Indian literature, and days will come that we will witness that he will be going to impact the world literature also. Because many a time we believe that Konkani, of course I am not using that small language, right? But compared to the readers and compared to the community, Konkani is a very small community. But if you can read Damodar Mauzo, if you can read Pundik Naik, if you can read Mahabaleshwar Seth. Mahabaleshwar Seth is such a writer, then believe me, one day he may go up to Nobel Puraskar also, Nobel Award also. And Prakash Parienkar has to follow this trend. And this is the beginning, I can say, because he always inspired youth writers. He always used to take us into Sattari village, or even I remember the Bageri, the hills. Many times he has taken many students to that particular area, banks of the Mother River, etc. Because he believes that this is a treasure for us, for a writer, and accordingly he is performing his duty. One bold statement I want to make. Prakash Parienkar has not written stories properly. You try to understand my English, what I want to say. Prakash Parienkar has not written stories properly, but he has lived those stories. This is a very important statement I would like to make, and that is the reason. It has gone very artistically, it has gone very high level of impact at the audience level, I would say. And because of that, I also wrote, after he got that Sahitya Akademi award, on the Zag, one special issue they published, that Prakash is going to be the ambassador of Konkani short story. And from this point of time, I think you have to carry this message that even we have started, sir, we know that we will get many budding poets in Konkani, but it is very difficult to get budding short story writer in Konkani, and that is the reason we have started Yuva Konkani Katha Lekhak Sammelan, where we are inviting youth writers to write a story in Konkani. We organize a Sammelan of 2 days, we organize some workshop for them, and accordingly they are trained so that this particular area where it can be flourished, and we are going to nurture them in this particular area. So lastly, I would like to say and give some example of our own Bahi Mauzo. Bahi Mauzo's and its style of writing has been known as, because of that, its conciseness especially, and especially related to the climax. People from India, the writers and the critics from various languages from India, they are calling him as a Anton Chekhov of India. I have recently seen, so many times I have seen that, I recently seen, because of this session only, seen the movie Sadgati, prepared, written, directed by Satyajit Ray. And it was based on the story written by Munshi Premchandra. And these stories central idea is same like the story of Kajro or the bitter fruit tree. So at this junction, I would like to say that Bahi Mauzo is Anton Chekhov of Indian short story, and I can say that Dr. Prakash Parienkar is a Munshi Premchandra of Konkani short story. All the best to you. One more thing I would like to share. He always brings Sattari in his story. Even this Sattari went in his class also. He lives Sattari. अशा पद्धतीने तो सत्तरी जगता आणि हांव खूब फावट ताका क्रिटिसाइज करतालो, but I believe, sir, that this is a बलस्थान. Important aspect as तुमच्या स्टोरीचा आमच्या लेखनाचे, and I'm going to take the same inspiration, because many a time when you are coming from a village to a city life, we forget our village and the trouble and the sorrow and the difficulties they are facing over there. But you have not forget your village, you have not forgotten your Sattari, कारण सत्तरी भितर एक प्रचंड शक्त आसा आणि ती शक्त तुमच्या श्वासतरीन येयल्ली आसा, हाच्या मुखार ती येवची आणि तुमकां जगातले सगळे मान सन्मान मेळचे अशें सांगता, कारण कोंकणींतल्यान सांगल्या नंतर ते काळजांतल्यान येता, म्हणून निमणे कोंकणीचो फ्लेवर देव बरें.
That was really wonderful, a variety of viewpoints. I think we have, Runa, don't look at me again. We have enough time for 3 very quick questions. Please rush through them. And I would thank my fellow panelists also for their patience. And please be as brief as possible is my request. Yes, please, questions? Yes. State your name, please, if you don't mind.
Is there any compulsion after translating you have to translate the name itself?
Who would like? Is there a
translation of a story?
Do you have to translate the name also?
Is there any compulsion of translating the name of the story or the same name? Title.
Yes. If the title is untranslatable.
What is translatable and what is untranslatable?
What is
name is a name. For example, name is a name.
No. If Suppose it's the name of a tree.
Yeah, but I will not understand if I'm a foreign reader. You have to see that translation is not for
You make the
locals.
reader understand other way. You make the reader understand other way.
What is the other way, sir? May I know what is
Context. Recently I have read an autobiography of a Manipur boxer. In that autobiography, they have mentioned their local names or whatever it is called. And in bracket they have given the.
Parenthesis. It's called parenthetical translation.
So those names also has to go worldwide. No? Why did those words should go Kazro? Why it cannot be a universal name?
Sir, I would agree with you. But I'm talking about the negotiation.
You
and
have to start somewhere. Never try to translate the name. So
I'm not the translator here. I'm a researcher of translation.
Then you put take this point. You take this point. Translation of names and particular phrases, because in this Vidya Pai's book, she has translated Carmelian in English. The कालच त्याच्या एका बुकाचे मराठी ट्रान्सलेट झाला तातून बांदेकर प्रोफेसर बांदेकर फ्रॉम सावथवाडी पॉइंटेड आउट दिस ताणे आमची जी म्हण आसा पळय
मस्काच्या निमतान पानवेली
ही म्हण आसा न्ही ही म्हण ओरिजिनल आसा ऍट द वे तुझे ट्रान्सलेट करताना यू गिव्ह जस्टिस टू दॅट म्हण आणि ही ताणे ट्रान्सलेट करताना ताणे एक पॅरेग्राफ दाखयला व्हॉट डज दिस मीन हे अशें ट्रान्सलेशन जाता
तुमचा प्रश्न कळ्ळो आता ते उत्तर तांकां दिवन
I guess there are many approaches and many different solutions to this, and different people follow different things.
I'll answer it.
Sir, Carmelian was translated around 15 years back. So exactly what I'm trying to prove to you. Yes, I agree with you. You are absolutely right. And there is another researcher who has also done translation studies in Konkani after me. But that was done 15 years back. And as I was telling you, and I've confirmed this, her first translation, The Upheaval, if you read my thesis, I have lashed out at her because it is very unprofessionally done. She has even omitted. She has polished the bad words. She has given out the bad words. She made it look very, polished and sanitized, right word. Okay, so the upheaval is very sanitized compared to Ache. So from 2002, and when I interviewed the translator, I was, she admitted it. She was not aware of the contextual, cultural things. For these translations, sir, and the author will confirm it, she has been constantly in touch with the author. She has every nook and cranny of her translation. You will see she had a query. She would call him up. So correct me if I'm wrong. So every cultural aspect she has seen. There might be a few loopholes here and there. I pointed it out and I will tell her. But there has been a significant process. By looking at Carmelian, you cannot point the judgment gun on her with the bitter fruit. Coming to your second question, why the title could have been remained the same? It is the negotiation of the translator. And in my thesis, I have brought out in my main chapter of translation that there are 4 elements for an optimum translation. This is my, my finding. One is equivalence, finding the right equivalent word. Now you will say, Kazro is Kazro. Let us make Kazro like a universal word in all languages so that people from all languages. But if I am sitting in Brazil, Kazro will not evoke that interest in me than the bitter fruit tree with this picture. I am a Brazilian reader. Okay, my native language is Brazilian Portuguese. And I am studying in the paper of Goa, they have a paper on Goa there. Okay, this Kazro will not evoke interest. If I want my book to sell, I have to translate it into English. I had a discussion of this with Vidya. And this is her argument. Okay, it will not sell. You have to see, somebody here who has done his thesis on publication and publishing. It has to sell. This is not versal. You know, her first translation of English was versal. We are studying it in SYBA. Students are here. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this book is calling it the beat of the drum. I have a problem with the translation of versal to beat of the drum. I have a problem with bhar yeva and frenzy. The two are different things. Bharya has a spiritual connotation. Frenzy, anybody can go in a frenzy. It's a broad word. I have a problem with these words. But will that stop me from translating? Will that stop me from making it a bridge to the international level? No. So let us give the translator that little leeway, that little bit of freedom, and let us give that translator a round of applause for doing this labor of love. No Goan sitting here has done it. Somebody sitting in Kolkata has done it. An elderly lady, full time sitting on the computer with her glasses. Let us give her that little compliment that she deserves. Let's not.
Glynis has been very critical of many translators in her thesis, another reason for you to read it. But having said that, to be fair to Vidya Pai, she is of Mangalorean origin, based in Calcutta. Okay, and you know with Konkani the language changes every 10, 20, 30 kilometers. So if I go to Satari, I'll be lost. So there are problems with translation, and the basic problem is not many people, not enough people entering the field. So please youngsters, give it a thought and think of it.
Thank you. One point I would like to, I just want to highlight one thing. See, if the novel is based on, I think you are getting it. If the novel is based on a character name, for example, Carmel, it's fine. Sir, what you are saying is right. But if the name is Varsal, name of the book is Varsal, for example, or a chain. So as Madam has rightly said, we have to give the freedom to the translator. We have to respect the effort he or she is putting. I have several problems with original and the translated work. For the narration of 10-15 lines, she has taken 25 lines to explain them. Because that is a difficulty normally when we are going to translate, at that time the translator is facing. So the question should not be like this, that why the same name has not been taken. And also the notes can be given, glossary can be provided. So this is how we can go ahead with the translation, otherwise it won't help us. It won't set up a bridge between two languages and two literature world. Thank you.
Thank you for that. One more question and then we close the session. Quickly now.
Yeah, Madam.
Yes?
Madam is asking something.
This is a question for all those who have read both the versions of this of the text. I just, when I read, I must admit I have not read all the stories in Konkani. I have read only one. I have seen the film also, and I have read the English versions. When I read this book, I had a sense of discomfort. Discomfort and this whole feeling of, this whole idea of loss of life, land, dignity, everything which is there, which is the common thread in all these stories. All these, this common thread of loss, which is there, I think it's there in all the stories, that's what I feel. And there's this feeling of discomfort. I wanted to know from the people who read both the versions, is the discomfort more when it comes out in Konkani or in English? That's my question. Thank you.
I would want to answer.
Take.
I have written a book review and I'm waiting for this session to get over to revise it with inputs from all of you, and then I will send it for publication. And in that, one of my major observations is that out of these 13 stories, more than 60% are very unsettling. एक जीवाक एक अस्वस्थ करता, काचे एंड असतं death असतं, ज्यांनी मरता. Okay, महाबळीन सुप्रीम सॅक्रिफायसान भायर गेलो कशें ताचे हाल जाता, पळोवपा जायना. Gorkale, the way, even in death, there is no succor for her. Okay, we were all teary at the end of the story. Okay, see the pain. Even the animal, Jani, when she's dying while giving birth to that calf. Oh my God, I didn't sleep that whole night after I read the book. I told Sir, sleepless night tonight, thanks to your writing. Okay, because it was very unsettling. Now, if the reality is unsettling, how can the author stay away from his reality? And mind you, knowing him closely, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many more waiting to be written. There are horrible things which he is waiting to write. Horrible things about the caste system. and the way the people are treated, of how there is inhumanity in this so-called human world, and not just towards humans, towards animals, towards nature, at all levels, and how culture is superimposed. See, most of the deaths which are happening is because we value these rituals. Why is Barkelo killed? Because the Shikma rituals. Why is Dulya's mother killed when she lights the Narkasur effigy? See, all these cultural things which are treated more important. Why is this boy, this man taking Gokale across, stopped from taking across the shorter route? He has to take the body across the longer route because of the rituals. Rituals are more important for people than human lives. He is out to expose them. Valor sir. No, this translation doesn't sanitize. I can tell you few things here and there. She has, words like, when you speak that dialect has gone a little wishy, but you can't take in a dialect. That you cannot. But a few words, some words here and there have been. I was looking at both while the reading was going on, and I found it is to be at least 98%. It has succeeded.
Part of the problem is also probably that Goan literature doesn't represent all of Goa till this stage. So there are favorites and there are preferred themes and all, and we are stuck with that.
I think, ma'am, when the reading is juxtaposed, the way it happened in today's performative reading, then you know that the original obviously evokes more, stronger emotions. Because especially the dialogue when they were reading, when the character is talking to his wife who's no more, I think it just hits you differently in Konkani, and obviously it will. But I agree with Ma'am Glennis that I think the very fact that yes, the discomfort gets carried, and that's, I think, credit to the author. The stories, the sacrifice especially, when I read it in the original, it unsettles you in a different way. At one, till this last line, you're mourning the loss of life. And in the last line says, the trees in the forest heaved a sigh of relief. Because that paradox is unsettling. I don't know how to put it, but in a good way. It sort of stirs you to do something about these things. So I think that is the power of the author, and the translation sort of carries that as well in this particular edition.
Madam, small point. Recently we have celebrated Ganesh Chaturthi. As per the Vedic Sanskriti's norms, the Ganpati should be of mud color. You can understand. So I believe that the Prakash Parienkar stories are without color, Ganpati without color. Okay. And the translated version, you can see that with color light. Because if a person like me, I think I'm reading in Konkani, for example, it appeals me more. Of course, translation facilitate. So this is the difference, and this is the answer I want to give to Madam's question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to end the session with a very short 1-minute reading of a poem. This poem is dedicated to 2 trees that Aarti Das, our tree queen of Goa, showed us on a tree walk. There are 2 trees. One is the India elm and the other is a rain tree. So my poem is to Miss India elm, a warning. I saw you creeping slowly towards Mr. Rain Tree at church, tittering at his silly jokes, flowers blushing, leaves rustling, quivering with excitement just at his feathery touch, playing root footsie underground. But marriage is not for you, babe. It's not for anybody. Marry Mr. Raintree, and a few decades down, he'll get a wide girth, grow bald every season. Now you may think you're in a church compound. You might think you'll be able to trot into the church and take your vows. You in a shimmering, rustling gown of blue, gold, silver and green. But you'll never be able to marry. You know why? It's quite simple. You're both different caste. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here. thank my fellow panelists for being here, Anuradha, Rama, and Runa. Yes, Runa. Thank you so much.
Well, congratulations on that labor of love. Thank you for the profoundly insightful session. I think all of us are surely returning home quite enlightened. वेळ आसा आमच्या सगळ्या मानेस्तांक यादिस्तिका भेटोवपाची. म्हाका आयचे उत्सव मूर्ती डॉक्टर प्रकाश पर्येकर हांकां की तेंच्यांनी विधी दिवन सगळ्यांक म्हाका आमची महाशाळेची डीन डॉक्टर अनुराधा वागळे यांच्या कडेन की तेंच्यांनी सगळ्या मानेस्तांक यादिस्तिका भेटोवपाची. पयले सुवातेर मिस हेता पंडीत. ताळयो मातश्यो आनी माथ्यान जाल्या आसा. डॉक्टर अक्षता भट. डॉक्टर फ्रेडरिक नोरोना. Dr. Glennis Mendonça.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Well done. Thank you, ma'am.
Dr. Hanuman Soprekar.
Yes. They were very good. They were very good.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you. Thank you.
I now request Dr. Purva Naik,
Just on time.
Program Director, Discipline of English, to propose the program.
A very good afternoon. सकाळच्यान कोंकणी खूब फावटी स्मॉल म्हटलां म्हणून म्हटलें थोडे कोंकणीनूच सुरू करुया. आयच्या दिसाक तरी कोंकणी व्हडली भयण कशी दिसता बिकॉज वी ट्रान्सलेटेड काजरो टू द बिटर फ्रूट ट्री. ओके, सो लेट्स क्लॅप वन्स फॉर कोंकणी. Yes. So back to my role as the program director of MA English. It is my privilege as much as it is a responsibility to propose this vote of thanks. First and foremost, our most sincere gratitude and thank you we owe to the Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Harilal Menon, to the Registrar Professor Sundar Dhuri, and to our very own Dean Professor Anuradha Wagre for their approval and relentless administrative support for making this event a reality. Our deepest gratitude to the chief guest for today, Jnanpith awardee, our very own Bhai Mauzo, Shri Damodar Mauzo, and our special invitee, Shri Oscar D. Noronha, the illustrious reviewer for the book The Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories. We missed the presence of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, but we thank our ever so supportive Registrar, Professor Sundar Dhuri, for gracing this event with his presence despite his own very busy schedule. We most sincerely thank our exemplary panelists for today's enriching book discussion titled The Trials and Travails of Translation, Ms. Heta Pandit, Dr. Akshata Bhatt, Dr. Frederick Noronha, Dr. Glennis Mendonça, and our very own Vice Dean Academic, Dr. Hanuman Soprekar. A big thank you. Thank you to the support extended to this event by the official distributor of the book, the Dog Ears Bookshop. This event would not be possible without you. In absentia, a very, very big thank you to the translator of this book, Ms. Vidya Pai, for her contribution by way of the translation itself. This event being the brainchild of our faculty coordinator, Assistant Professor Ms. Runa Menezes, with all the co-coordination handled by Assistant Professor Dr. Rama Murkunde, strongly backed by the core committee comprising of assistant professors Franz Schubert Kota, Shama Dharwadkar, Mamta Verlekar, Dr. Purva Vast and Akash Gaonkar, research scholar at discipline of Konkani. They deserve many thanks as well as the loudest round of applause for putting this really fascinating literary puzzle pieces together in the form of bilingual narratives, a performative reading. The performers of this reading also included assistant professors Nafisa Oliveira, Naresh Naik, Anthony Gomes, with the author himself, our very own Sahitya Academy awardee and Vice Dean Research Dr. Prakash Parienkar, under the coordination and guidance of the core committee, which has achieved a fantastic feat of bringing the purpose of this event to its fruition. A special mention and thanks to Program Director of Discipline of Konkani, who is not here with us today, Assistant Professor Ms. Krupali Naik, for collaborating with us for this event. We owe our thanks to the support staff of our school from different disciplines who have contributed immensely to the logistics of this event. I wholeheartedly extend a thank you to every faculty member, deans of different schools, vice deans, program directors, teachers and students who participated in this event, and the principals of the respective educational institutions for encouraging them to join us today. We thank the administrative and support staff of Hall Arrangement Facility on campus for facilitating the use of this conference hall for the event. I would be failing in my duty if I miss out on thanking the student volunteers of our Shenoy Goebab School of Languages and Literature for all the help and support extended by them for this event. I'm sure the Bitter Fruit Tree and Other Stories, unlike its title, will leave sweet memories of its release with you, so you can keep exploring its newer dimensions every time you read it. Thank you once again, one and all, for joining us and making this book release event a huge success. This event has proven that we have really become a school and no language is alien to any of us from any discipline. Thank you so much.
With that, we come to an end for today's program. आयची ही कार्यावळ हांगा सोंपता अशें हांव जाहीर करता. तुमकां सगळ्यांक देव बरें करूं. जय हिंद, जय गोमाता. The copies of the Bitter Fruit Tree are available outside on the counter. Interested people can collect their copies.